off limits, man. Whoa. Okay, calm down.
Hello and welcome to the Katie Halper Show. Okay, I was expecting another thing to happen. I'm just going to be totally honest. And it didn't. So maybe we'll have that. Let's see. Let me just start again. That was not our normal intro. We were trying to do a new intro. We don't have it, I guess. But welcome to the Katie Halper Show and Useful Idiots. This is a combined stream. Very excited to be here. Matt Taibbi will be joining us later on in the stream. Aaron Maté will be joining us later on in the stream. We have a bunch of great guests that are going to be joining us throughout the night. And we also have a drinking game that we can play. And we are going to go over those rules right now. This is from Matt Taibbi's TK Media website. So he did a drinking game for all of us out there to play. And I realized that intro did play. Okay, Brad, hold on one second, though. Let me just bring in Brad, because I got to get Brad in to explain what happened. Now, for people who watch Useful Idiots, you may not know who Brad is, but Brad's a producer at the Katie Halper Show. And he made that little video that I saw, but I didn't realize was played. Brad, why don't you come on in?
Hey, Katie.
Hi, Brad. How's it going?
Oh, it's going good.
So how was that, guys? Was that great?
Yeah, I don't know if people liked it.
Guys, if you liked it, give us a thumbs up. Just do a thumbs up in the comments. Also, if you're watching this now, please make sure that you like this stream, because that's a great way to beat the corporate overlords. So that's cool. Well, Brad, why don't you tell people about what inspired you to make that video opening?
Well,
I didn't know it was terrible. I totally messed that up, guys.
Well,
sorry.
It is keeping in the Katie Halper Show tradition, though, of no fourth walls. So
true.
But yeah, I guess I didn't go into it with the end result like already formed in my head. I guess it started out as what people would see in the thumbnail image is that animated graphic, and what I wanted to convey there was, this television set, and if you look at the TV screen, it's got this patriotic background, but it says fear in front of it, and so kind of communicating how, the mainstream television broadcasts, they make their business in sowing fear, in search of clicks and views and this and that, just like we've seen. Now it turns out that's what Facebook and Twitter, and that's their model. Like the more contentious, the more inflammatory, the more it gets elevated. And then, you've got that like oozing coming out of the corner of the TV and the Statue of Liberty kind of SMHing,
right.
And then I guess taking the text there, which was kind of in the vein of Stranger Things, I thought it would be really cool to try and recreate the Stranger Things intro, but make it the Katie Halper Show
Well,
intro.
thank you. Thank you, Brad. That was a spooky intro, very appropriate for both Halloween. We're off by a week, but what's scarier than Halloween are the midterm elections.
Yeah.
So I think that was good. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if people, I'm seeing some people saying to replay it once and then other people saying it was too long.
Oh, well, all right. Maybe later on we'll replay it. Let's see. Yeah.
But anyway, I'm just happy to be here and I'm glad that everyone else is here. And yeah, for better or for worse, at least we're going to get through this together.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. And yeah, again, we're going to have a bunch of guests joining us. So just sit tight. We're going to be checking in on the election results. We have a drinking game. Let's start off with that drinking game right now. I'm just going to share my screen.
Caveat, the Katie Halper Show takes no responsibility for any alcohol poisoning that may occur when playing this game.
Very, very true. All right. Well, thanks, Brad. And thanks, everyone, again, for watching. And thanks for that intro. So here is the drinking game. Ready? And Wilson is here also. And Tyler are here. So we're going to hear from them also. Here's the drinking game. Ready? It is called, as you can see, Violence, Democracy Itself, and Fetterman's Shorts, the official 2022 midterm election. The hammered cranium feel of congressional election propaganda will worsen exponentially tonight. Your guide to drinking the pain away. So we're going to just scroll down. Okay, let's scroll down to the actual drinking rules. Okay. So according to these rules, let's read there. Drink every time anyone from a candidate to a TV anchor mentions that democracy is on the ballot. Double shot for use of the phrase democracy itself, e.g. democracy itself is on the ballot. Drink every time you're told this is the most important election of our lifetime or the most critical moment of our lives, etc. You may drink an additional shot if you're certain today is not any of those things. Drink every time Steve Kornacki draws a frenzied geometric shape around Pennsylvania. Drink every time John Fetterman's shorts are visible in a video report. Drink every time Nate Silver reminds you he doesn't do predictions, but rather publishes percentage chance forecasts. Drink every time Liz Cheney is mentioned, i.e. as if mattering. Drink every time Elon Musk is blamed for something. Double shot if the bad thing is, quote, in the name of or under the guise of free speech. Drink anytime anyone mentions over 100 election deniers on the ballot. Also drink for permutations on the theme, e.g. 60% of Americans will have an election denier on the ballot, or over half of GOP candidates are election deniers. Election denier J.D. Vance wanted to ban books, etc. Anyone mentions the specter of violence or conditions ripe for violence or reports votes are being counted amid threats of violence, do an exclamation shot at the end of the night if no violence is ultimately observed. Drink anytime a politician or a pundit warns that everything might come down to the wild card in Georgia. And with suspicious gleefulness reminds you we might all be waiting until December 6th to find out who will control the Senate. Call it the no sleep till Georgia rule. All right, so those are all the rules for now. Later on, I'll tune in for the specific MSNBC rules, but we'll get to those later. So I'm going to, now that we know the drinking rules, we'll be checking in on the news coverage later throughout the night. And we're going to bring in our first guest. I'm so excited. She's making her debut on the Katie Halper Show. You may have seen her on lots of different programs, including on The Breakfast Club. Very exciting moment. And I'm speaking of none other than movement lawyer Olayemi Olurin.
Hey,
Olayemi. Sorry,
Olayemi. You got
Olayemi,
it,
right? I got like nervous.
Yes.
I got performance anxiety. Olayemi, welcome.
Sometimes. Hey, boo.
How are you? Thanks so much for coming.
Good. I'm good.
So not only are you a lawyer, but you are also, I think, a TikTok star. Is that fair to say?
TikTok, but my face be places videos, certainly socials.
But how do you make those really good videos you make? Are those on TikTok?
They're everywhere. Honestly, they're my rants. They're my regular.
And do you do them just onto your camera? Like, do you post?
Yeah, like literally standard on my phone. Like the way y'all get them straight from me. Like, oh, rant.
They're really good. And then do you do the subtitles on any particular program?
Automatically. Instagram will like automatic. You just click captions and it automates them.
Wow. All right. So it's not, I thought it had a snap. I thought it was a TikTok look to it, but it could be.
You thought I was exceptionally talented, but
yeah.
No,
oh, well, you are exceptionally talented, but but I thought you were exceptionally talented on another level in another area.
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, thank you so much for coming. And you're someone who covers a lot of important issues, especially crime, propaganda, and you debunk a lot of myths that are spouted out by not just Republicans, because that's obvious. We know Republicans do a lot of dog whistling, or sometimes it's not dog whistling, it's just overt. But sadly, the Democrats play at this game too. So can you just explain to people what propaganda is, how people can recognize it, and what realities are being covered up by this propaganda?
Yeah. Well, propaganda is basically the way that like mass incarceration, policing the criminal system, this idea that like the police, the system is about justice, the prosecutors are all the good guys, and other people that find themselves in the system are bad. And it's not just in that we get fed that in media, right? We get in our regular mainstream just journalism coverage, right? They take police narratives as absolute fact, they present that as absolutes, and they just they perpetuate that bias to us as fact and objectivity. But beyond that, right, beyond just the fact that we're filled with like Law and Order, Snapped, just I mean the whole true crime genre, just every cop show, Lucifer, it's in everything. But it's also in other things, like little things that people don't even think of. It's in the Powerpuff Girls, it's in Darkwing Duck, it's in all these little like, and that's the way. To me, those are more concerning than like Law and Order, at least to some degree. Once I've told you what propaganda is, you think, okay, Law and Order, those things qualify. But you're not going to think about it like, ooh, Darkwing Duck, why is Bushwick the villain? Certain things like that. So it's that way. It's the way that constantly throughout our media and our everyday life, we're constantly being programmed and basically indoctrinated into believing that our system is the only way. One, that's the only way justice and the criminal system are synonymous, but two, that the people who find themselves in there are villains.
Right. And something that a lot of commentators are saying is that Democrats, if they lose, or one of the reasons they're going to lose is because they are running on defunding the police, which I didn't know they were running on that. So how do you respond to that allegation?
They're liars. I mean, they're just liars. They're liars. They're shameless liars. They're liars. Where are they? Can you find me exactly who's running on the defund the police platform? Like this is the thing that I find interesting, right? Like I've noticed this, and I'm not gonna call any names, but a lot of these commentators that allege to be on our side that have taken this flagship of running propaganda and all this like right-wing nonsense about crime, they keep being like, oh, the rest of us are gaslighting them or like lying about, oh, there's a crime wave. Here's my thing. Let's forget the fact that there isn't this massive crime wave. Forget that. Let's pretend that's the case. I'm gonna give you that.
Sure. Okay.
What we're currently doing is that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. We're doing mass incarceration. We're doing that. Like the police have not been defunded anywhere. All of the places that they're mainly highlighting, so sorry, I was getting a call and it just zoomed me out. But I'm fine with it.
Good. It's dramatic. It's showing how important this is. Yeah.
But all the places that they're mainly highlighting, like New York City, Chicago, LA, all these places that they're painting out like Gotham City, right? All these like areas with all the crime. We give more money to the police than anybody. Like, okay, let's say it's true. Let's say New York City is Gotham City. We have a massive crime wave. The Democrats are in power and they have given more money to policing, more money to mass incarceration. So what's your problem? What is the issue here? You saying we're supposed to vote Republican so Republicans can do what? The same thing that according to you, crime is still increasing? I'm living for this Zoom dramatic effect.
I know. It's great.
I love it. I'm here for it. So yeah, that's what I would say to them. They're liars. They're liars, and they also don't make no sense because they're basically advocating. That's my thing. The only method we're doing right now, the only thing, I have never had my political dreams become law. Not one of my political dreams are law policy. So if things ain't going right, they're not going right under y'all's current status quo. So that is not an argument for us to keep doing more of the same. That is not an argument against Democrats, unfortunately, for them. That's how I feel.
Yeah. Do you want to try to, you want to leave and come back in? So I like the dramatic effect, but we may want for editing purposes.
Oh, yes. Yeah. We I don't know. Hold on. Let me see if it does this. Hold on. Oh, no, that didn't work. I'll leave and come back.
All right.
I'll even come back. One second.
Sure. This is too good a conversation although I do like the dramatic up personal. And by the way, everyone, please like this stream. Everyone also become a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show, or you can become supporters of Useful Idiots at usefulidiots.substack.com. And again, this is a show where we're having lots of guests. So we're having Olayemi on now. Then we're going to have on Ross Barkan, then we're going to have on Leslie Lee, then we're going to have on Marianne Williamson, then we're going to have on Taibbi and Aaron Maté, and maybe someone else. I can't confirm that yet. But right now, I'm very excited because we have a crime expert. And this is one of the biggest things that keeps getting talked about in these elections. And it kind of drives me crazy because, as Olayemi was just pointing out, mass incarceration is the system. It's what's happening now. The police have not been defunded and no one's really running on that. So Why do you think it is, though, that Democrats are not framing their reality on their own? Why are they just reacting to these talking points coming from the right?
Because that's what they do in general. That's all they do in general. All they ever do is respond. That is the problem with why we constantly lose. Just as a point of strategy, the minute you let the other person frame the entire narrative, you've lost. The minute you let them frame it and you're responding, you've lost. It's just that simple. And Democrats do that with everything. Like, I believe Republicans practice, and successfully, they successfully practice a politics of distraction. They're just constantly throwing bones at us, and every time Dems go running instead of actually doing that. And I also think there's a level of Democrats just always being scared about what is the natural response. Like, you're in an adversarial system. Those are your opponents. They're always going to make a move and you have to make a move back. But instead, what Democrats do is every time Republicans do something or maybe might do something, is all this fear and panic. I don't understand why the logical response has not been for, like, for example, take New York City. Hochul and Zeldin shouldn't be close, let alone as close as they are. But yet, they are, because instead of Hochul and them this entire time, they've let Eric Adams.
And this is the governor, just for people who know aren't locals, this is the governor's race that we're talking about in New York State.
The governor's race. Let me give you back. So the governor's race in New York City right now, our governor is Hochul, who had come in after, the Cuomo scandal.
Right.
She's a Dem. Zeldin is a right-wing extremist. And normally our very blue New York City,
right,
it's not close. Normally it's supposed to be firmly blue. But unfortunately, we've had, fear-mongering cop Eric Adams just all year, just every day. Like, that's the thing. And I don't want to say I told them so, but I did tell them so. It might be a problem if every day your mayor is every day suggesting that y'all are failures. He is literally fear-mongering about crime all day, just creating all this hysteria. And then he's essentially telling y'all that y'all are failing, and Democrats are in every office. So who do you think is going to fall back on? But instead of getting it together and maybe not rallying behind this cop in the first place, or being stuck with him, no.
Eric Adams was a cop, everyone, in case you didn't know that. Yeah.
And they was just rolling him out like, oh, this messaging expert. Pelosi them had him at the DNC conventions and stuff. And now look. And now you're shocked. Now you're shocked that a candidate could come in and take, like, it's not like, it's important to remember, Zeldin is not a genius. He didn't come up with these talking points, all right? These talking points were fed. This is literally the campaign that Eric Adams has been on all year. All he did was he's literally invoked Eric Adams himself. So of course the people are going to think, you know what I mean? You're going to see support mobilized around that. But honestly, it's basically just Democrats being afraid and always letting Republicans lead.
And what about this talking point? You hear people talking all the time about, oh, look at this no cash, ending bail. This person just came out and killed someone because of the bail reform. Can you shed some clarity in that area?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, more propaganda, more baseless propaganda. First of all, New York City still has a cash bail system. I want to make sure that's known. New York City very much so still has cash bail. What happened with bail reform at the top of 2020, which was a move to decarcerate Rikers and get us towards, bail reform, and also getting us towards the vision of closing Rikers, because that's a human rights crisis. But bail reform made certain misdemeanors and non-violent crimes, non-violent felonies, non-violent crime, non-bail eligible. However, for everything else, violent crime, assault, murder, all these other things people are talking about, cash bail not only can and will be set on, but statistics have showed that the introduction of bail reform has actually led them to set bail higher on those charges. Second of all, on any case, this has always been the case and it will always be the case. If you are out on bail for anything in New York and you're rearrested or you violate the terms of your release, bail will be set on you. You will be remanded. That's just absolutely factual. So that's this whole myth, this whole idea that these people out here just committing crime and they're just getting a free. It literally does not work like that. If you violate the terms of your release, you're going to jail. More importantly, the whole purpose of bail is to ensure that people return to court. Prior to bail reform, about 15% of people didn't return to court. After bail reform, about 9%. So actually, bail reform has been incredibly successful. Then, as far as all these people fear-mongering about violence and people recommit violence, so the Brennan Center did a study, and they studied over 100,000 cases between 2020 to 2021, and only less than 2% of people were rearrested for felonies or violent crime. So then on top of that, most cases in New York State, let alone New York City, over 80% of cases that are charged as felonies are resolved with a non-criminal conviction altogether. So it's just a myth. It's just a myth.
Right. And what about the stories about rates of crime?
Which ones? The crime rate is going up?
Yeah.
First of all, so studies actually just dropped on this yesterday, a beautiful chart. Actually, I wish I had to link. But not only is the crime rate up marginally, despite the fact what is up is crime coverage. Crime coverage is up. Crime is not what's drastically up. Crime coverage is up. But more importantly, even if it is, that still is not an argument in favor of continuing to do the same things that we've been doing, because that's what we're currently doing. It also requires us to interrogate why crime would be up. If crime is up in New York City in 2022, it might have something to do with the fact that first of all, New York City is one of the most expensive places to live in the world. Our current rent has gone up to an average of $4,000. Yet the minimum wage is what, $15? You lose 40% of your income in taxes. This is an astronomically expensive place to live in. And so if you see crime, it's because you see poverty, and that is just true. That's not a talking point I would like.
Right.
The vast majority of the people in the criminal system are poor, are literally living underneath the poverty line. But specifically in New York City, almost everybody is represented by a public defender, and that means you have little to no income. So it would have something to do with the fact that New York City was locked down in a pandemic. Businesses closed down. We had an eviction moratorium for months because people could not pay their rent. Now imagine what New York City rent is, thousands of dollars racking up after months and months and months and months. And then they just up and lifted the eviction moratoriums. So tons of people end up homeless with nowhere to go. Yeah, that's why crime would be up, because people are poor.
Mm. And how does, I think a lot of people know this, but some people, I think it's worth for breaking it down. And I've heard you do this, but why does poverty create, I want to be careful. It's not like poor people. It's not like, this is not about individuals, but why does lack of resources, why does that create more crime than, why does that create crime? Why, in other words, why are people, sorry, everyone, I have a cold, so my head is a little bit like distracted right now. So I apologize for that. But why do people who are hard on crime or tough on crime, or people who want to get rid of crime, often don't understand that the things that they're advocating for, which is like mass incarceration or more cops, or austerity, actually creates a lot more crime?
Yeah, that's my thing is this, right? And in life, if we want to stop anything, if we want to stop or start any type of behavior we have to examine it. That's always say that why is this happening, right? Why is this happening? Because that's how we would get something to stop. And the same thing obviously is what we need to do for crime, but people are reluctant to do it, and it's because we have created an entire large profit system. One, we've created an entire profit system around this criminal system, but two, this criminal system specifically polices certain populations that the larger powers that be want to see police, and that's just the truth of it. Because the reality is, we know this. If you were the same under the safest communities are not the most police communities. They are the most resource communities. We know this. All of the areas that they call high crime areas are the most under-resourced communities that have continued to be that way generation after generation after generation. Because of course, if you saddle people, you're taking the poorest populations and you're saddling them with criminal convictions and all of the fines, rap sheets, collateral consequences of not being able to get a job, not being able to get housing. All of those things follow them for literally the rest of their lives. And thus also all of the children that they produce, the neighborhoods that they produce, the communities. So you are literally guaranteeing that a community exists in poverty. And I mean, as far as why it would lead to crime, because if you don't, and it's not just, I want to say this about crimes and poverty. People like to think of crimes and poverty like, oh, they stole something. They can understand, oh, they stole food or they stole, a thing, how that's a crime of poverty, but they don't see that for like everything else, assault, mental, anything else that comes out of it. But it's like, if you don't have money, if you don't have the resources to deal with anything in your life, how do you think that impacts how you start to think, how you start to feel, how you start to react, and everything else conditionally that you're dealing with? If nobody has, how many clients I have, like where a mother has been trying to get mental health resources for a child literally since he was born and can't, you know what I mean? A lifetime of doing that or not being able to. You can't get educated. You can't get proper education. You can't get proper housing. You can't get proper things. That affects how you respond to life situations and life's actors. You're essentially, another thing we have to remember too, when we don't look at violence and these different types of things, we look at them as divorced from poverty and divorced from crime. But It's not. You were literally, we're putting people in environments where they have nothing and forcing them to fend for themselves and to fight one another and to fight over the scarce amount of resources. That breeds violence. And then what do? You criminalize them and you incarcerate them where they have to, again, fight for their lives. That, again, breeds and indoctrinates violence. And then when they get out, you send them right back into the same under-resourced communities that are already fighting for their lives with everything that they've learned to demonstrate what they learned in prison. It's just a vicious cycle. So that's why.
And what are some of the ways that these problems can be solved? If it's not through incarceration, obviously, or increased police presence, what are the things that we know from research actually lower crime?
The root cause is giving people money for education, giving people money for housing, giving people money for healthcare and mental health resources, giving people the money to take care of themselves. And that's something that we know and we understand in every single other context, right? We know that people need the means to take care of themselves and I think this would tie us to a larger point is listen to those people. The communities are tell people what they need. They are literally asking for resources, asking to be heard, asking to have the police taken out of their communities. It's, whenever they talk about it, it's so interesting. All these different commentators and politicians love to use Black people as a prop and use victims of crime as a prop to argue in favor of mass incarceration. And they love to be like, oh, Black people, crime is the top thing Black people are thinking about. Thinking about crime, everyone is thinking about their safety. Everybody, that's not a secret. That's not a myth. Everybody, Black people, everyone thinks about crime. That does not mean that we have the same response to how we should deal with it. And Black people, statistically, victims advocates are the people that are in favor of criminal justice reform and are telling you, hey, mass incarceration is not helping my community. Policing is not helping my community. Police brutality is not helping my community. So I also think we have to call out these people that continue to they end a conversation short. It's just the lack of the incomplete rule. Like in court, you wouldn't be able to, I can't just insert like an excerpt of our conversation and leave out the rest. Right. That's what they love to do. They love to use Black people. Black people care about crime. Yeah. We're also, you know what I think is interesting? If Black people are, the way these people present it, like Black people are the sole perpetrators of crime, right? So if we're the sole perpetrators of crimes within our own communities, right? That's what they say. Our neighborhoods are the high crime areas, the dangerous areas. So we're also the sole victims. We're the victims, right? We're both the perpetrators and the victims of crime. So then how come if we are telling you, we are the ones telling you we have the highest police presence, we are most impacted by this criminal system, and we are telling you it's not helping us. It's not helpful. It's harmful. We do not feel safe. This is not doing anything to help us. And you know that because you know that. It's literally generation after generation after generation. That's a problem. And
what kind of work do you do right now as a lawyer?
As a public defender or just in general as a movement lawyer?
Both.
As a public defender, I represent poor anybody that cannot afford a representation that is arrested and accused of a crime in New York City. I represent you and handle your entire criminal case. And outside of that, as a movement lawyer, I am constantly working with other organizations, activists on the ground, whoever, to help support them and bring attention to whatever it is that they're fighting and how we can get them the resources. It's a constant thing.
Yeah. Is it frustrating? I mean, how do you stay in it? Do you ever want to quit because of
no. As far as just the general work as being like as a public defender, that's a separate question. But
yeah, that's what I was thinking about as a public defender, honestly.
Yeah. So that's a longer answer. But as far as overall, when it comes to the liberation of Black people, no, I never, because this is what I would do. Like, this is my natural self. Everything that I say and I advocate for, that's what I would be doing all day, every day, regardless. So I feel these are the things that plague my mind most in the world. And it's because it's reality. I think that's something I like. When I came to America because I wanted to be a lawyer, but what made me developed a particular interest in wanting to fight for Black people is because I couldn't look away. It was literally forced. It wasn't like this. I'm from a Black majority country. So I saw it so clearly how racist this country is. Because it was new. Like, what is going on here? This is the wildest experience. And it took me years and years of trying to figure it out. And then like just trying to conceptualize what was happening because I had no warning. Like my parents, like my family still lives in the Bahamas. I came here alone and I was a teenager and no one told me nothing. I didn't have it. So I'm like, what is going on? And I'm in West Virginia. So it took me a while.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. So then I went to college in Ohio and I started reading like, oh, wait a minute. I started learning, I started studying and I realized like, oh, and I can't not do it. So for me, it's just, and I look at it as a privilege. I think it's a privilege to be Black people don't get to opt in to, how you feel about what's happening with the Black community or being emotionally invested in that. We don't. You have to spend your every day, your all day, you're Black, and that's exhausting. But I have the privilege of being able to go, hey, you know what? My career is this. I'm going to argue for this. It's safe. Like the things that I say and I advocate for and stuff, there are all kinds of countless Black people that have been killed, are political prisoners or were the stakes are, you know what I mean, really high. I'm in a position of privilege. So honestly, no, I never want to quit. I feel blessed and highly favored.
Great. Awesome. Okay, last thing. If you were working for the Democrats, how would you tell them to deal with crime? How would you tell them to talk about it?
I would
if
tell
you were working
for
Hochul or whatever, what would you tell her talking points to be?
I would have told Hochul from law. First of all, she should have started ages ago. She should have started ages ago. But she should have exposed. She should have backed all of the studies and the research that was coming out, debunking all these things. And then she probably should have got Eric Adams on the same page. But I think they should have come out and said, hey, actually, this is what it is. This is what it is, and this is how we've been addressing it. And I also think the Democrats would be benefited a lot from even having the appearance of community input. Like, I think in a world where Hochul had come out, like, talked to the people, really campaigned on, like, okay, this is what it actually is. This is what y'all are saying. What do y'all think? How do we respond? Some level of that. But it was her campaigning approach seemed to be very hidden. Like, I'm just going to hide and then like avoid this thing till the ninth hour. But I would have just come out and addressed it directly. Hey, we were in this pandemic, this was happening, people are at crime is what we're talking about, but these are the actual numbers, this is what's happening, and this is what we've been doing about it, and what is the community input? I think people would have responded better to that. But if you allow the other side to put out a narrative and you never address or debunk it, and then you just wait till the ninth hour to act, and you still don't debunk it, you just act like you're gonna just do crime better, Right. So I would have been honest. Honesty would have been my approach.
Too bad, it's a little late. Maybe next time. Next election.
I don't work for them.
Anything else you want to share?
No. Y'all follow me on socials at Miss Olurin, MSOLURIN. And I have a Substack called Olurinati that I publish essays on monthly, and I suggest you subscribe.
Yeah, it's great. It's a good one. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye, Katie.
Bye. Have a great night. That was great. Okay, Olayemi. That was amazing. She's such a great speaker, and I'll link to her. You got to check out her videos that she puts on Instagram and on Twitter. They're very good. And they're pretty funny. She manages to make funny videos about things that are very serious. So moving on, guys, like the stream if you haven't already liked it. Make sure you like it. And hi, people who are watching at the Katie Halper Show, and hi, people who are watching at Useful Idiots. And again, Aaron and Matt will be in the stream later tonight. But we are going to bring in our next guest. Very excited. He's been on the show before. He's joining us from a Kathy Hochul party. That, again, is the current governor of New York, the Democrat, who is facing a much harder challenge than she had anticipated from Lee Zeldin, who we were just talking about, who's a right-winger, a Trumpian Republican. So we are going to talk to Ross Barkan, who is a journalist and also a novelist. And let's see. Tell us what's happening, Ross. Are you there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yep.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm sitting at the Kathy Hochul party right now. It is close to polls closing in New York. They close at 9 p.m. Kirsten Gillibrand actually is here speaking to press. I see her off to my right. People here are obviously very excited. It's in Chinatown in Manhattan. It's at this very lavish-looking former savings bank. There's now like this grandiose, catering hall or something like that. So, it's very interesting. I still think Kathy Hochul will find a way to win this race. Just the math remains with her. New York is such a Democratic state, but undoubtedly the energy is with Lee Zeldin, with Republicans right now. I do think down the ballot is going to be a big challenge for Democrats in New York. A lot of swing races in the state, and I would imagine Democrats are going to lose a lot of them in the House, especially. But, we'll see. We'll see. Again, we'll know very soon. This is just my sense as of right now that, Hochul will slog her way to victory with a very kind of uninspiring campaign, and Democrats otherwise are going to have a hard night.
And why is it that Zeldin has so much energy behind him?
So I think some of it is just the midterm dynamic, which, I think it is boring to say, but that's the reality that we're in a political system where there is always a backlash against the party in power. It happened to George Bush, happened to Obama, it happened to Trump, it's happened to Biden, right? I also think, there is a sense that Zeldin is tapping into the zeitgeist of the moment, which is this fear of crime, which, is real. You can't just hand wave it away. There are a lot of people who are both affluent and working class who are worried about crime. And Zeldin has been talking about it nonstop. He definitely has gotten a lot of traction with that. He's going to get Democratic crossover votes. There's certainly concerns about inflation as well. But my sense here in the final days and weeks, the messaging has really been around crime. And Hochul is on the defensive. And I think part of her issue is she didn't spend enough time in very Democratic parts of the state, particularly New York City. We'll see what turnout looks like. She may have gotten enough Democrats to come out in the end, but I do think for a long time she took the race for granted. Zeldin did not. I mean, Zeldin's a Trump Republican, but he was very good at making himself appear more moderate than he is and really taking the focus off of Trump and just campaigning a lot. He was in New York City a lot, and that may pay dividends. We'll see. But certainly, if you're going off vibes, the vibes are with Zeldin. I think if you're going off polls and data, it's very hard to pick against Hochul. But no doubt, like the feeling is not with her right now. But feelings don't always win elections.
Right. You wrote a piece at your Substack about attending some literary magazine parties and then attending some political rallies, and you said that the rallies were less attended, was one exception, than the literary parties. So can you compare these two types of parties?
Yeah, I mean, it's, look, post-pandemic, man, the literary scene's getting hot again in New York, and that's great. These new magazines are really, drawing people, like many hundreds of people, who probably maybe even 1,000 people. I don't know. I'm not good at counting crowds, but it was very crowded. And, the Hochul rally, which she had with Biden at Sarah Lawrence College, was like very well attended. They had it on a big lawn. People came. She did a rally with Hillary and Kamala Harris at Barnard College, which apparently hit their capacity, but it was like a pretty small auditorium. And just to me was underwhelming when you consider this is the governor of New York, this is Hillary Clinton, who is a celebrity regardless, and the vice president of the United States, right? And the Bill Clinton rally was really, I don't know who it was for, quite frankly, because in this like very strange, out of the way studio space in downtown Brooklyn where regular people like weren't notified about it. And it was just a bunch of like members of organized labor in like a little pen cheering for her. And yeah, I mean, the energy is not there with her. People are not excited about her. She didn't really offer any affirmative vision for what she wants to do in the next 4 years. Like, I don't think she's a bad governor of any means. She's only been governor for a year, a little bit since taking over for Cuomo. But there's just not really like a public argument. She didn't really run any big policies. She talked about abortion for a while, but as we know, you can't only do that and then hope to coast. There's just no finely tuned message, and I think she's paying a price for that. People are not excited to vote for her. They will because they don't like Zeldin. But you just see there's this lackadaisical kind of listless nature to all of it, and to her events as well. Now, again, I do think she'll win, but it was just an interesting contrast. I by coincidence went to these parties and then went to these rallies at almost the same time. It's like, wow, I mean, I can see where people are genuinely more excited, and it wasn't at the local events.
Yeah. And what other races are you keeping an eye on?
So I'm looking at certainly the House races. There's a lot of competitive races. I think progressives will feel a little schadenfreude if Sean Patrick Maloney loses in the Hudson Valley. He was like a Cuomo shill and very hostile to like the left wing of the party, and he's the head of the DCCC. There's like a good chance he's going to lose his election. Long Island has 4 competitive races. I think there's a chance Republicans win all of them. You have in the Hudson Valley and Syracuse area, Pat Ryan, who won in August, really running on abortion rights. He is in a tough race. Mark Molinaro, a Republican who once ran against Cuomo, he might go to Congress. And then, Syracuse area as well, where John Katko, who is sort of a moderate Republican. He's retiring, and that's kind of a toss-up, but could go the Republicans' way. So, I mean, New York, because of the way redistricting went, which is a long story, has like a lot of now toss-up districts. And this is like not a good year for Democrats to have a lot of toss-up districts. So I imagine they will lose the lion's share of those districts. But, we shall see. As I said, polls close very soon.
Right. What about, you focus a lot on DSA. What are they doing this election?
Yeah, so it's funny. I think like progressives and leftists and DSA elected officials are doing more for Hochul than honestly like the state party is. Like, I mean, they're doing it under the push to vote for WFP. So the Working Families Party in New York now has to win ballot status every 2 years thanks to Cuomo. Another long story. And so they need a certain number of votes on their line to basically stay a political party. So a lot of DSA and a lot of leftists are saying, vote Hochul on WFP to keep the WFP around. Yeah, I've written critically WFP. They and DSA have a good relationship. It's not a perfect one, but I think a lot of socialists in the state see it as kind of a worthy ally and vehicle to have around. So, to the credit, it depends on your view, I would say. But, a lot of the DSA electeds are trying to pull votes out for Hochul. I think under the correct argument that you can get socialist policy out of Hochul. If Zeldin is governor, it's all done. Like there's no chance you're getting any stronger tenant protections. You're getting nothing on climate change. The whole DSA agenda in Albany, which has actually had real success, even criminal justice reforms, it is all DOA under Republican governor. Whereas Hochul, she's gonna not be an overly powerful figure. She's someone you can pressure. She is a moderate, but she is someone who, in theory, you can work with or at least push in the direction you want her to push in. Whereas, Zeldin's a Republican, Zeldin's a Trump guy. Zeldin will probably be governing for Fox News. I don't think he's going to really want to govern in a way where like a Charlie Baker or Larry Hogan will govern, where they just really want to run a blue state and do their best. My sense is he's ambitious. He wants to probably be president. And if he's governor of New York, everything he does is going to be probably about the national spotlight. And that means no leftist legislation is getting past his desk. He'll veto it, and they probably won't have the numbers for a veto override. So I think DSA rightly sees this as an important election because to have a state agenda, you have to have Kathy Hochul in there. Zeldin, it's finished.
What are the types of things for the cynics out there, including myself a little bit, but what are the types of things that DSA was able to get through Hochul or Cuomo?
Yeah, so funnily enough, a lot of the big progressive accomplishments came when DSA had less members, which was in 2019, where a lot of progressive Democrats won and Julia Salazar won. And Cuomo was kind of on the defensive. They got the partial end of cash bail, which is a very, very big deal, which Zeldin is now dragging Democrats around, but, is a very important criminal justice reform. You got stuff on climate change, really important legislation, that I think will pay dividends in the long term. Strengthening tenant protections, very big deal. It's a little wonky, but the ending the ability of landlords to take apartments out of the rent stabilization system, that really did matter. I think on the housing side, progressives and leftists have made progress in Albany where they did not for a very long time. And now the block of DSA members is growing. It's still small. Next year, DSA is going to have 3 state senators in a body of 63, and they'll have 5 or maybe 6 state assembly members. So it's not a lot, but it's more than 0 or 1. So it's easy to be cynical, but I do think they have a real strategy because to get policy done and make change, you have to do it through the state legislature in New York. And what we've seen in the past is if you do work as a bloc, you can pressure other Democrats to kind of do the things you want to do. So, I think there are victories they can win next year with Hochul there. Zeldin, you win nothing.
Mm-hmm. How does Hochul compare to Cuomo?
I think in some ways she's similar in that, she's not at all progressive. I think she fundraises from the very same people. She fundraises from Wall Street, from the real estate industry. Her instincts are not with the left at all. I think the difference is she's not vindictive. She doesn't have like these sort of quasi-psychopathic tendencies. and she's someone that you can negotiate with. I mean, it wasn't, the first budget was a mixed bag for the left. She screwed them on, she did partially repeal some of those bail reforms. She got the huge tax break for the Bill Stadium, which was like a terrible economic development policy. She did plow a lot of money into public education, which was a big deal, which was something progressives wanted for a long time. I think unlike Cuomo, she's not going to play games with the public university system. That was something Cuomo for years. Like, I went to a SUNYs and CUNYs. Like, it's felt like every budget cycle we're fighting for their lives with a Cuomo administration that, like, on a whim would just pull funding and then restore it. And then you had to have like marches and protests. And it was just a huge mess. So again, like, I see Hochul as a conventional moderate. She's nothing for the left to celebrate by any means. But I think because she's more conventional, she's someone that can be worked with or worked against. Whereas with Cuomo, I mean, I think the only time progressives got anything from Cuomo was when he was probably in 2019 thinking of running for president and was on the defensive a bit when Democrats retook the state Senate. But I think beyond that, he was just such a active enemy of the left. I don't think Hochul is an active enemy of the left. I think she is not an ally, but Cuomo would actively find ways, it's felt like every year, to undermine progressives and socialists in New York State.
Yeah, of course, people may not know about this, but Cuomo, in addition to having a lot of blood on his hands, and I think, in my opinion, because of the way he dealt with COVID and gave, of course, immunity to nursing homes and hospitals when it came to negligence, something that David Sirota has written a lot about, and Ron Kim has talked a lot about. When Cuomo's aide basically confessed that they had cooked the books and distorted the numbers on the deaths, Ron Kim, apparently, who is an assemblyman, was going to speak out about it publicly, and Cuomo called him and threatened to destroy him. So that's just which because, of course, you wrote a book called The Prince about Cuomo. So his
Yeah, I mean, Hochul just not going to do that. Hochul's not calling up state assembly members and threatening them. Now, of course, I think there's an argument to make. Style. It should be style over substance, and I think the substance, the jury's out. But again, she's only been governor for a year. I think next year, assuming she wins, will be very interesting. I think she's going to feel cross-current pressures on the left and the right. The right is going to pressure her because Republicans are going to do well tonight. And I think the left is going to pressure her because, we're the only ones trying to even pull a vote out for you, realistically. But she's got to win first, right? Polls close 8 minutes. And again, I hesitate to back off my view that she'll find a way to win. But I'll tell you what, you're out there, you feel like viscerally Zeldin's momentum and just the number of people who are openly excited in the way they're openly excited about Trump. I liken my Substack to Trump v. Hillary Clinton. There are a lot of similar vibes to that election where people were not excited about Hillary. They were excited about Trump. I think the ultimate difference is the lack of an electoral college, and that Zeldin's got to find a way to 50%. Trump never did. And so I think that'll bail her out. But again, I do get some of those, 2016 was the first presidential campaign I ever covered, and there are vibes. I'll tell you what, the low key rallies, the pulling in the faded stars of the party,
right?
The kind of hectoring people to vote. It does bring back a lot of memories. Whether that means it'll end that way remains to be seen.
Yeah, one of my favorite Zeldin moments was when he asked Ilhan Omar to condemn some anti-Semitic messages that someone left on his machine, as if she was behind them or had anything to do with them.
Yeah, I mean, I think in a way, Hochul is lucky that Zeldin is still a MAGA guy at the end of the day. I think that's a saving grace for her, because if you are not a MAGA Republican, and there are non-MAGA Republicans, some who are in New York, kind of just regular moderates or just, very, pro Wall Street and tough on crime, but aren't pro-Trump really, and are sort of acceptable to middle class and affluent left-leaning people who kind of vote on style, not substance. She would probably outright lose. I think if there's a Michael Bloomberg candidate in this election, she would be finished.
Yeah.
I think because he is, at the end of the day, just the guy who like trolls Ilhan Omar and voted to overturn the 2020 election and indulged entirely in the far right. I think that will probably cap him. But he's gotten very far being that guy, and I think that is because he's not stupid and he's really sanded down the edges off of that and really stopped talking about Trump and just talked about crime and quality of life almost entirely. And that discipline has paid off for him so far.
Yeah. Last thing, shifting gears a little bit. You've written about Ukraine.
Yes.
So what's your take on Ukraine?
What's my take on Ukraine? How much time do you have? I mean, look, it's horrible. Russia, very much is the instigator here. They launched a horrific and stupid invasion, and it has caused, absurd amounts of damage, both in the literal sense and the economic sense. And Putin deserves to be condemned. I'm not an apologist for Putin in any way.
Yeah.
Again, you have to give the preamble, because then my next point is, and I think you're actually starting to see it quietly. You see articles about it that even the Biden administration is now starting to back channel diplomacy. And my view from March has always been, you have to avoid a nuclear confrontation at all costs, and you have to find a way to de-escalate. You have to find a way to attempt diplomacy to end this war as soon as possible. For a long time, liberals didn't want to hear it. A lot of them don't want to hear it still. They think, let's pour unlimited amounts of arms into Ukraine and destroy Russia. You can't destroy Russia. It's impossible. It will never happen. And giving unlimited amounts of military aid, more than we gave to funneled into basically at this point Iraq and Afghanistan, it is something that deserves scrutiny. I'm sorry, we have to, in a time where we're saying that we have to cut funding in so many other ways, you absolutely have to scrutinize, tens of billions of dollars in military aid. So I do support diplomacy. I just support de-escalation. I don't want a nuclear confrontation. That would be a disaster. And I hope Biden and Europe can bring Zelensky and Putin to the table, because that's what's going to have to happen. That's the only way this ends, or you get a war for 5 or 10 years and hundreds of thousands of people die, if not even more, or you get something more catastrophic. And I don't want a World War I. I don't want a nuclear war. I want peace. There's no easy way to peace. There's no convenient way to peace. I think that's where liberals get very angry and go, oh, you're saying concessions. But, you have to really consider diplomacy. And I think that the good news is that even the United States is in that boat now.
Yeah, I think it's a bit delayed. But yeah.
A bit delayed,
yeah. Well, I will let you go because I hear people are
people are shouting now.
What are they shouting about? What are they shouting about?
Oh, Tom, just the state controllers on stage, just
That's
being
exciting.
excited and trying to get people excited. Nothing has come in yet, but they're doing their rally thing.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Ross, for coming on.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Great. Any predictions?
Sorry?
Any last final predictions?
I guess Republicans take the Senate and the House, and Hochul finds a way to win. That'd be my final prediction. But we'll see. I don't know. I'm not a genius. I don't have a crystal ball. But that's my lazy prediction.
All right, cool. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming. All right, guys, that was Ross Barkan, and we are going to bring in our next guest. Very excited. Also, let me just tell you guys something. Please like this stream. It's a very easy way to support the show. Also, if you can become Patreon supporters, you can do that patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. Again, that's patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. If you are a useful idiot, you can become useful idiot supporters at usefulidiots.substack.com. We just added a new feature where every Thursday we do a Thursday throwdown, and we analyze the media that doesn't fit into the Sunday morning news shows. You can also come onto our call-ins. We have Useful Idiot call-ins. We also have Katie Halper Show call-ins. I probably won't do one tonight because it's going to be too late, but I usually do them every Tuesday right after my stream. And guys, next Tuesday, we're doing a live taping of the Katie Halper Show. This is very exciting. At the People's Forum, we're doing a live taping of the Katie Halper Show. The guest will be Miko Peled. Some of you have seen me interview him. Miko Peled is let me just do a screen share so you can get the image for this. Miko Peled is a Israeli American activist. He's the son of a very decorated, famous Israeli general. This general, Maté Peled, his father, became a big critic of Israel. He met with Palestinians. And then Miko, his son, that's Miko right there. Miko, his son, started out as a proud Zionist. Again, his father was this very decorated general. Then his grandfather on the other side, his mother's father, was a signatory to Israeli independence. He tragically lost his niece in a suicide bombing. And he is a major activist and a one-state solution supporter. So he believes in one state, that he does not believe in Israel being a Jewish state. And he's great. And he will be talking about his book, The General's Son, which is a really moving story. He'll also be talking about about the Israeli elections that just happened. And it's going to be a great event. It's a live taping. Here, I'm just going to take you to the website for the People's Forum. Here it is. And you can just go and reply there. You send your RSVP. It's a free taping of the Katie Halper Show. I'll be there in person, obviously. If you're not in the tri-state area, then you can't make it. You can still watch. We're going to be live streaming it. But definitely try to come out if you can. It's the first time we're doing a Katie Halper Show in years since the pandemic. And it's going to be great. And Miko's a great speaker. So yeah, that's all I have to say about that. And we're going to bring in our next guest. And we're going to be watching some coverage, because I know that you guys are excited about that. And we can apply the drinking game. Coming into the stream right now is the inimitable Leslie Lee of Struggle Session and Culture, the show on Callin. Hello, Leslie.
Hey, Kay, how's it going?
Good, you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I like the beard.
Oh, thank you.
It's new.
Oh, yeah.
At least I haven't seen you in a while, so maybe it's not very new, but it's new to me. Yeah. How's how are things where you are? Any exciting races by you?
Oh, yes, we had Hung Kao versus Jennifer Wexton. That was one that got a lot of attention. You know, they sparred over inflation and abortion. Hung Kao, the Republican, Captain Kao, as he likes to be called, because he's a military. That's his main thing, is that he was in the military, and we need to know that he was in the military, Katie. If you don't know, he was in the military.
He was, okay. All right. Okay, that's good. That's you got to get that front and center.
Yeah, he did half his campaign commercials in his fatigues.
That's so funny.
And stuff. But yeah, he's kind of a ghoul, a creep, but does not look like he is going to win so far here in Northern Virginia. So far, it's still looking like Wexton's going to hold it.
All right. Well, and Sam K asks, will Miko be signing his book? Would love to get one. He will be signing his book. And Leslie, you co-hosted with me when Miko was on, remember?
Oh,
Miko
yes,
Pellet?
yes.
Yeah, that was a great conversation. So guys, Wilson, are you there? Wilson of Useful Idiots fame. Hi, Wilson. How's it going?
Awesome. How's everybody doing? This is cool being on Katie Halper Show too. I've never done it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, what do you give us a taste? What should we watch right now? What can you show us? Because you're controlling the clips. What do we got?
Right. I got all three streams going. I'm watching Fox, CNN, and MSNBC all at once. And I feel like we should go start with we got the current Kornacki cam, but
okay.
John King with his magic wall that they love to talk about.
Yeah.
He's going there. He is right there with our favorite Jake Tapper.
Tap. Okay, let's hear what they're saying. Let's do volume up.
All right.
Here, number one, Senator Warnock was above 50. Number two, Senator Warnock is in the lead.
Yeah.
Herschel Walker, the Republican candidate, now in the lead by 9,000 votes, up to 55%.
Oh my gosh.
I would say prepare for a little bit of a seesaw ahead. But to the point David Challing was making in our last conversation, as they begin to count more of the today vote, election day cast votes, that's where Republicans have an edge. Boris just noted Governor Kemp stretching his lead a bit. It's the very same dynamic. They're counting election day votes now. We're starting to count them as we move through the hour and the hours ahead.
So
remember, it took us a long time in 2020, and those runoffs were close. So now we come back here. Come back here to the Senate race, and you just look at this. This is the state of Georgia
They're
today.
so in love with their
Incredibly
tech.
competitive
I know.
State, a 9,000 vote lead. You're beginning to see the map fill in. If
Wow.
you're in the Walker
Whew.
campaign, number one, you still got 45% of the ways to go. But you also see, see some of these rural counties, they're small, but we
What
have
a
no votes
truly
in at all.
amazing
Those are going to be
race
red
that was.
at the end
I
of the
know,
night.
right?
So the challenge is, I just want to go check up here a little bit. So you first you come to Fulton County. Senator Warnock getting
You could not
75%
put that
of the
in
vote.
a
Let's just go
fictional
back and look at
story,
2020
and
in the
people would not
presidential
believe
race.
it. I mean, as a true
Joe
crime
Biden getting
fan alone, there was
73%.
so
So
much
we come back
intrigue
here. I just want to check.
there.
So Senator Warnock doing what he has to do in Fulton County, at least at the moment, as we continue to count. Then you go over to Cobb County, right? You see it's a more competitive suburb, but Joe Biden won it by 14 points. Now let's come back to where we are and look at the Senate race in Cobb County. And it's a 20-point race. So around the Atlanta area at the moment,
They do love their
Warnock there doing
right.
quite well and what he needs to do. Just want to come over
Yeah, and
here
their
to
big
DeKalb
thing
County
I've seen
again.
a lot of
Only
the sites
7%
doing
of the
this
vote
is
here, though.
comparing
So in Atlanta, in the
Biden's
suburbs,
numbers
Senator Warnock
to
is
whatever's
running
going
strong.
on in the
The
district
question
right
is
now.
where are the Walker
Right.
votes coming from? So let's see. One of the
Wow.
challenges was, do the Trump voters turn out for not Donald Trump, right?
So what do you think?
That's
Should we
where
talk?
Brian
Should
Kemp
we
helps. Even though Brian Kemp and Donald
talk
Trump
about
are in a
this race?
feud, you have a
I want to
Republican
hear your
governor
thoughts on
running
this
well
race.
ahead of Herschel Walker.
My thoughts on this race
heard.
is just
It's, again,
I don't know what to say. American politics are shameful. It's like
there are dozens of them, and those votes
they
add
should.
up.
The
This
Democrats
is a
actually.
28-point Donald
I
Trump
mean,
district
he's
in there you
literally
see
is
Herschel
in the
Walker running
South.
up big
He's a
margins.
black
Just to check
guy
the
with
governor's race here.
multiple,
Governor-
cases in the fidelity against him. You should be able to beat him. You should be
Yeah.
able to beat him like fairly easily. How
Right.
like bad is your brand that is even in question? Like that's the sort of thing that should take down other candidates that are other Republicans. Like for him to be on the ticket
Right.
should like be like a danger to them. Like they should be would have wanted him out of the
Right.
race. But the fact that that's not the case shows how like rough it is out there for the Dems.
Yeah, I mean, it's just funny because he's like an anti-choicer, obviously, and like several women have said that he's paid for their abortions.
Yes, I just completed other obvious hypocrisy that it's hard to imagine that a Democratic Party that had any sort of inroads or backbone or anything wouldn't be able to like knock this one out of the park. Like this is
Right.
just there's all to be a layup.
Well, you are from the South yourself, so any insights into this as a Southerner?
Insights in this, I think that just the Democrats have mostly abandoned the South, like period, more or less. So that's why even the biggest kooks there with like stuff coming out about them can still win there. Like there's people, I'm sure there's people on the ballot that are running unopposed in a lot of state level races that are, and that's just actually absolutely ridiculous. But that's how like much the Democrats have given up on like making any inroads in the South.
Right. Someone in the comments, which I've been good. I've been trying to ignore the comments that are triggering, but this one isn't triggering. I think it's interesting. Someone writes, "You literally have a demented guy as president. Why are you talking about bad candidates instead of how the system has become completely corrupt?" I don't think Leslie's too much of a Joe Biden fan.
Yeah, I'm not a Joe Biden fan. Joe Biden would also be an example of how ridiculous American politics have gotten.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Should we watch some more returns? Should we watch some more coverage? What do we got next, Wilson?
Let's see. Should we go to the Kornacki cam?
Sure. Let's see what we got from Kornacki.
He's good. He might be on break. Oh.
I
love watching this though.
Let's see. What do we got?
He's just playing over there. He'll come get a drink of water.
We can't see it. I think you have to add to stream.
There we go.
Oh, this is him on break, right? Yeah. Oh, Beasley's winning. Oh, it's too early to call. All right. Yeah. Okay. This is when he's on break, and they just leave the camera on. Oh wait. So Warnock, who's winning? Warnock is winning. I thought he was losing.
Looks like more results coming in.
Maybe Leslie. I think people heard us talking.
Yes, they heard us talking. They got out there. They
Walkers,
stayed in line.
Yeah. Wow.
All right. Well, let's switch over to Fox. Oh, it looks like DeSantis is talking.
Oh, let's watch DeSantis. He's so annoying. What did Trump call him? DeSanctimonious. Yeah.
And yeah, he's apparently won his race.
All right, let's hear what we got from Ron.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Now, thanks to the overwhelming support of the people of Florida, we not only won election, we have rewritten the political map.
Oh, you hate to see these guys feeling themselves. It's the worst.
I know.
It's the worst vibes.
I want to thank all of our campaign staff, from campaign manager Janera Peck down. This was the best run campaign in the history of Florida politics.
The history of Florida politics. Wow.
I want to thank all of our wonderful
Does he have the same nasally voice as Jake Tapper?
Hard to get out the vote. Your support
He
means
has
the
this
world
weird
to Casey and
accent.
I.
I can't really
bless
do
you
it.
and
I feel like
thank
when he
you.
talks, he also talks like the Jake
Yeah, he
Tapper
does
voice.
kind of a little bit, yeah. But for me, what's really
Now, it's a
annoying
lot
about him is
easier to run a
his-
good campaign when you got a great record to run on. And I would not have been able to see the level
He
of
has very
accomplishments that we
huge,
saw
like,
unless I had outstanding
I don't know.
personnel working in the
I
executive
want to say
office
car
of the governor,
salesman, but
as
maybe
well
more
as heading
specific
state
than that.
agencies.
Something.
These folks
He looks
work
like he'd be a real
hard
prick to
implement our
work
agenda.
for.
They
Oh, yeah,
believed in our
absolutely,
agenda,
yes.
and
He
the
reminds me
results
of
have
someone
been
who'd be in that,
historic.
like,
Thank
from
you for
Office
your
Space.
Yes,
support
exactly,
and
yes.
work.
Yeah.
Office space manager
Thank
Yeah.
you
energy.
to Miami-Dade County.
What are they saying?
Thank you
It freed
to
them
Palm
something.
Beach County.
Okay.
Oh no, he's just gonna go through all the places that he won. Great.
Now we're still
He's
tallying
doing
the
his
votes,
his
it's
shout outs like a
clearly
rapper.
apparent that
Right.
this election we will
All
have
the different
garnered a
hoods that rock
significant
with
number
him.
of votes from people who may not have voted for me 4 years ago. And I just want to let you
Voted.
know I am honored to have earned your trust and your support over these 4 years.
Oh God. That looks like Shakira.
Ooh, what is she? What is going on over there?
Yeah.
What is that
Thank
with?
you
A Tarzan
to the
neckline.
greatest
That is,
first lady in all
that's a
50
choice.
states.
Yeah.
That's a contrast.
Yeah,
with
seriously.
the
It looks-
overall aesthetic.
Yeah. Like a Dancing with the Stars outfit.
Yeah.
For being a great wife, giving unwavering support, being a tremendous mother to our 3 young children.
Did he
and
win like
serving as an
leadership of
example
District
for women
12
throughout this
in the
state,
Hunger Games?
especially
Because
going
that would be the
through
appropriate
the
dress for
battle of
that.
Yeah.
cancer. She is remarkable.
Wow. How old is she? She looks a lot younger than him. Brad, can you put up your comment again? I didn't see it.
Today,
The fascist was just reelected directly after knowingly misappropriating funds to lie to immigrants in order to put on a campaign stunt. Not seen since Jim Crow. This is not a good sign. Yeah.
now today is the culmination
Yeah, it's
of
like
the
Democrats can't even
2022
beat
fall
like
elections.
corrupt
But in
Republicans.
reality, Americans
Yeah.
have been
No.
voting for many years now. They've been voting with their feet. And the results of that behavior
He always uses his hands.
has been just
like,
as stark as our landslide victory today. States and cities governed by
Giant
leftist
flag behind
politicians
him.
have seen crime
Oh,
skyrocket.
here we go.
They've seen their taxpayers abused. They've seen medical authoritarianism imposed, and they've seen
Imposed.
American principles discarded. The woke agenda
Oh,
has
here we
go.
caused
Oh, here we
millions of
go.
Americans to leave these jurisdictions for greener pastures.
The woke agenda. I
The
can't
woke
believe
agenda.
that this is like that's a
Now,
major
this
issue.
great exodus
course.
of Americans,
That was just a joke on
for
Twitter.
those folks,
That was
Florida, for so
would
many of
go
them,
away.
has served as the promised land.
Oh my God.
We have embraced freedom. We have maintained law and order. We have protected the rights of parents. We
Okay,
have
not
respected our taxpayers.
not for nothing,
and
but I
we
do not
reject
think
woke
you can say you have
ideology.
maintained law and order in Florida at any
Yeah.
point
Seriously.
in
We
Florida
fight the
history.
woke in
Not
the
for not to go down
legislature.
that
We
path.
fight the
Right.
woke
obviously.
in schools. We fight the woke in the corporations.
Oh
we
my
will
God.
never ever surrender to the woke mob. Florida is where woke goes to
Oh my
die.
God.
Well, it's where a lot of stuff goes to die, but
People
wow.
have come here because our policies work. Leadership matters.
Is that why they go to Florida? I thought people went to Florida because the weather was nice.
Yeah, I think so.
I thought that was mostly why people they're retiring and the weather is nice.
We set out
it's good for their lungs. The warm climate.
On that vision, and we produced historic.
You know where she met? You know where he met his wife?
People of this state
no, where?
Have responded in record fashion.
Church.
No, but very Republican.
Flounders.
Golf course.
Yes.
Washington,
okay.
Florida
they
is
met on a golf course.
Right
yeah.
Track.
She does look a little like Shakira.
Wait, did she work there or was she golfing?
I think she was golfing. Let's
requires
see.
a revival of true American principles. Florida.
He was then a naval officer. They met on a golf course. They married in September 2010.
We offer a ray of hope.
They have 2 daughters and a son. Madison, Mamie, and Mason.
Proud of our achievements in this
Why'd they do that?
I am honored
Madison,
by your
Mamie,
support,
and
Mason.
Mason. Yeah.
To the road ahead. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race in this first term.
He's talking about himself with a lot of importance.
We've accomplished more than anybody thought possible 4 years ago, but we've got so much more to do, and I have only begun to fight. God bless you all. Thank you very much. Thank you for a historic landslide victory.
Wow,
DeSantis, the major
freedom
winner,
lives here.
Winning re-election for governor in Florida. Britt, do you want to
that's the Verhoeven shot right there.
Well,
that's the Verhoeven shot.
What do you mean?
He sees this as a
It looks like it's something from Paul Verhoeven.
Why,
the flag, his demeanor, her dress, her outfit.
And there you see the family.
Weird little
was a big
kid
part of the campaign. His
Right,
wife,
and Verhoeven major
went through a battle
be
of cancer
scathing critique,
and,
right?
Former TV broadcaster herself. And a big asset on that campaign. Ron DeSantis winning in places that other
so much
Florida
confetti,
governors have
the
not
digital
won as
camera
Republicans
cannot
since
keep up.
Jeb Bush in 2002. Now, we've got some calls to make. In the first of the 2 Oklahoma Senate races this year, Fox News can project that GOP Senator James Lankford will win a second full term in office.
And in the special election, we project that Republican Markwayne Mullin will defeat Democrat Kendra Horn.
Moving to Connecticut, where Democratic Senator, the incumbent Richard Blumenthal, wins the 3rd term by defeating Republican businesswoman Leora Levy.
Over to Texas and the governor's race, where we can now project that Governor Greg Abbott will remain in the governor's mansion for a 3rd term.
Oh, Blumenthal, yeah.
High-profile Democratic candidate Beto O'Rourke. A lot will be said. A lot will be said about this this race because this is multiple efforts on the part of Beto O'Rourke.
Multiple efforts and multiple tens
How
of
could they not
millions
find
of
someone
millions
better
of
to run
dollars
than
and a lot of
Beto?
focus on Beto O'Rourke as a candidate. Britt?
O'Rourke is becoming the Charlie
Britt
Crist
Hume,
of
I
Texas.
love him. He's so funny.
Oh, the Fox News people, they got some shade.
Yeah.
The Charlie Crist of Texas.
Not that other phony name.
Yeah, I mean, he's gone from the cover of Vanity Fair magazine and this shining hope of the Democrat Party. Jessica, you know, your thoughts on what has happened to Beto O'Rourke?
It says a lot about the power of the media because they really did want to make that dude happen for a little bit, and it just did not work. If they forgot he was in Texas, maybe that doesn't work in Texas. Like your markets are, New York and Los Angeles.
Right. Yeah.
Right? There are a lot of people whose races are
I think the focus groups weren't that representative
in North Carolina,
where he was running. Yeah.
I'm not saying that she's going to end up pulling that off.
Jonathan Cadman is in Houston.
Could go. That maybe that
Jonathan, any insights as a Houstonian?
Expected there in New Hampshire, defending Nevada, things like that, giving more money in Pennsylvania, maybe to Tim Ryan, who had to go it alone without Chuck Schumer's support at the end there. And, these are celebrity candidates. I think that there have been incredible messaging moments that kind of have rallied the Democratic base and made you really focus on the issues that matter to us as a party. But they are seemingly just not great candidates to win statewide office, and I hope people will take stock of that.
Okay, we can also project that
Democratic
Governor Dan McKee will win the first full term in office, defeating another GOP
she looks a little bit like Kennedy. Remember Kennedy?
Oh, yes.
Ned Lamont will defeat GOP candidate.
I say, why did so many of the VJs turn out right wing?
we can project that Republican Governor Chris
Sununu, Cuck
will win
Sununu.
a fourth
Oh,
term. And Dana,
Sununu,
he's
who
been on the
endorsed
show with
Dahlbuck.
you a
Yeah.
number of times
Baldock.
with you and
Baldock.
Bill. He also possibly has other
Dana
ambitions.
Perino from
Well, he might. So there was a heavy attempt to recruit him to run for the Senate in New Hampshire, and he didn't want to do that. And I can understand.
So Chris Sununu, Leslie,
governor,
you know,
you are
he
the executive
endorsed
of your state,
this
you're the
guy,
CEO of
Don
your state, he
Baldock,
loves New Hampshire, and he thought, why would I
is
want to
running
go
against
to
Maggie
Washington
Hassan in New
and be
Hampshire.
one of 100 and not
Even
get anything
though
done? He wanted to sink
Baldock
his teeth into things. I
called
don't know if he actually has
Sununu
ambition
a
to run for
communist, a
president.
Chinese communist
Of
sympathizer,
course,
supporter of
that
terrorism.
decision doesn't need to be made for a little while, unless we're
But
talking
Sununu,
sooner than later.
Sununu called him a conspiracy theorist during the primary. But then he won the primary, this Baldock guy, thanks to the Democrats. This is one of the races that the Dems poured tons of money
Poured
in.
money into,
Yeah,
oh, yeah,
Pied
yeah,
Piper
yeah.
thing.
Governors winning
Let's hear
by
what Bert Hume
decisive
says. I
margins.
love this guy.
You know, the hope if you're a Republican is that they will
Sorry.
pull across the finish line some of these embattled candidates for the Senate who are in really tight races.
Yeah,
You
I
see
gotta
that
say,
in
all
Georgia, you
these
see
race,
that in
the
Florida,
people
well,
doing
not
the
so much
race
in Florida, but you
coverage,
certainly see it in New
they're
Hampshire,
getting
and you see
up
it,
there
and you
in
see it
years.
elsewhere.
Like
But
every
for
network
example, in
has somebody
Ohio, how
that
much
just
can
looks a
he help
little.
J.D.
They
Vance
should
to get across the
maybe
finish
be
line
considering
in what appears to
retiring.
be a pretty tight race
They
out
should
there?
be in
And
Florida.
we'll see what happens in Arizona as well with Kari Lake and
Absolutely.
Blake Masters. Okay, let's head over to Bill Hemmer.
All right,
And
Brad
this
says,
is your
in my
vote in
opinion, this
Virginia.
speaks to the abject failure of the Democratic Party to effectively rebut various bullshit narratives platformed from every facet of media. We need fighters and got Washington generals.
To the House races
Oh,
in Virginia.
not the
Thanks for being
general.
patient.
Oh,
Okay, here we go.
Leslie, coming close to
Virginia
home
too.
for you.
Jen
All right,
Kagan,
let's
she got
see.
about 60% of the vote. And she's got a lead here of 19,000 raw votes, about 11%
Uh-huh.
on the board. So she continues to, I mean, we saw this, about an hour and a half ago, she took the lead. She's maintained that lead in Virginia, too. They like that run there. Virginia 7, closer to Washington, D.C. This is Spanberger's race with Yesli Vega. What
Oh,
I
so
see,
that's
guys,
switched
is
a little
this
bit.
race
Oh.
is getting closer
Yeah.
throughout the night.
Spangberger,
We
she's
still got
like
some vote out
pretends
there
that
right
it's
now,
that
but
the
Vega
Dems are too
continues to
woke
hang
and
on
too
to
defund the
a lead
police.
with the difference of about 6,300 there in
And
Virginia.
and
Can I show you a couple
Yesli is
things
just
in the Senate race here
kind
that
of
I'm
a bit of a
seeing?
loon.
Ah, really?
Let's pop down here to Georgia and watch what's happening with Warnock and Walker.
All right.
Warnock about 30 minutes ago had gone below 50%. He popped
Wow.
up again. Remember, 50% in
The
Georgia
Warnock
is where
pop.
you need to be to avoid the
The
runoff
Warnock
from
pop.
4 weeks from now.
My
And
iron
Kemp in the
passion
governor's
plea.
race, he has been pretty consistent from what I'm seeing, well above 50% now for, or really, I guess, ever since the polls closed 2 hours ago. So Kemp is running at 51.6. Walker's running at 47.1. So again, it's about that 4-point spread that you see, and between Walker and between Kemp. Let me get out here.
Hey, one thing, Bill.
Yes, go ahead.
There's a libertarian
Brett
in that
Bayers.
race, in the Senate race,
Voice is
that's
sunny.
getting 3 times the vote of the libertarian in the governor's race in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know if that factors in, but there is a difference there.
Yeah, and it could take some votes away, and we're going to see. I can't reflect that on the board behind
Yeah,
here,
yeah, 'cause we don't have that.
but
Which
listen,
team
point
has the best
could be
set? Because I have to
That's a
say,
good
so
question.
Can I show you
far,
what's happening in Ohio before I kick it back over?
honestly, I think the Fox
here is
News
Ohio.
uses too much white.
Here is Ryan
Uh-huh.
and Vance.
There's
Guys, we got a
something
race
to
here.
it. There's
This is
something
really interesting.
a little bit, I don't
it's
know,
a different race than what we
daring
saw
about
15 minutes
open,
ago.
I should say, about
Vote total of
Open.
23,000.
Yes.
Here's what I would.
What do you think of MSNBC? Should we tune into
would think
MSNBC
about
or
Yes,
CNN?
Yes, let's compare.
Let's compare,
MSNBC.
yeah.
This
Oh, how's
actually,
Vance doing? Was Vance winning?
and I didn't see,
JD.
but
Yeah.
oh, Sarah Huckabee Sanders projected to win Arkansas governor. Oh my
gosh.
god.
Is
Oh my
Steve on-
god.
Is Steve on break again?
Yeah, he's on break
He's
again.
always
What-
on
what are
break, and they
doing
keep the
over there?
camera on.
He's just in a little room and the screen. That's
All right,
I
let's
don't
see
know,
what
that's
CNN. What do we got on CNN?
wait. I don't know. Is that MSNBC? Because I'm looking at
Yeah.
MSNBC, or is that NBC News?
Oh, I don't know. What are you looking at?
Yeah, I got like live coverage. I
Oh.
think you might just be on the Kornacki cam.
Oh my God, is there a Kornacki cam? How do we get to MSNBC? Wilson, we need to see like what Joyanne Reed is saying. How do we get there?
Or maybe I'm just a little bit behind you. or
Maybe you're
something.
behind. All right. Let's
But
see.
yeah, I had people talking a little bit ago.
No, you're right. I'm just on the Kornacki cam. I
Oh,
just
okay.
learned too much. I'll get us a new one.
There's an actual thing dedicated to it. How sad is that, guys?
That's really.
That they actually have a separate thing for just Kornacki.
That's so funny. That's so funny.
I mean, it's good. He deserves his own camera.
I suppose. Again, I don't feel like the MSNBC production. It feels a little bit warmer.
It does, yeah.
Fox News, but
yeah.
I don't know if it's
more
enough.
welcoming. But that's because it's just one guy's room. Well, let's see. Let's see what. All right, let's see what we got for MSNBC non-Kornacki cam.
Of the voting.
Here's CNN doing a breaking alert while I get a new MSNBC.
Okay,
Still in the lead, but it's close.
oh, JD Vance is winning.
Oh my
But it is
goodness.
close.
Democratic Congressman,
It's close.
49.7%. John
Wow.
King is going to need to walk us through where the votes are still out to let us know if it's
And
actually going
did
to
you
end up
hear
being
his
close.
his
About
little
45%
revelation
of
that
the
the
vote
reason
in
he
there.
became
Now,
like
in
a
North Carolina,
Republican
look at this.
is because
Red
people
Bud
made
sitting
fun
at
of his
50%,
the movie based
Sherry
on his
Beasley's
book.
48%.
No,
The
really?
Netflix,
It's
yeah,
actually
like
a little bit of a
like that's
wide
why he
lead
kind
between
of
some
shifted
points on
more
this race
towards the
tonight.
right because
We've got
You're right.
70%
the
in,
elite, the
of the
cultural
vote
elite,
in
You're right.
the
North Carolina.
liberals made
All right,
fun of
let's
his
move
little
now to
Netflix
New
movie.
Hampshire, where we've got Maggie Hassan sitting at 57.8%.
Oh, okay, she's gonna. All right.
Don Bolduc sitting at
So
40.9%.
wow, I think people thought this
Smart
would be gonna
Republicans
be a
and
lot
Democrats that are
closer.
talking to her, looking at these numbers, say Hassan is in a very strong position at this
Wow,
hour. But
I thought it was gonna be
we only
closer.
have 30% of the vote in, so we'll keep an
But then
eye
again,
on
only
that
30% in.
Now let's go
Only
out to
30% in,
Colorado.
yes.
Yeah.
This again, a reach for Republicans. Michael
Bennett,
Bennet at 58.6%.
I should recuse myself because his
Joe
father
O'Dea,
was
the
the
Republicans,
president of Wesleyan University when I was there. I
at
can't
this
really say
hour, but of
anything.
course, we do need to know where the votes are coming in.
too
'Cause we're only
pro-Bennett.
looking at 40% of them so far. Now let's check in on Wisconsin. Expected to be one of the tightest races on the map tonight. So take these numbers with a grain of salt.
Whoa.
Mandela Barnes in the early vote out to 70% ahead of Ron Johnson, the incumbent
Only
Republican.
4%
He
in.
sits
Oh
at
yeah, only 4%.
29.8%
That would be great
right
if he
now. I'm
won.
sure John
Ron
King can
Johnson's
explain to us
terrible.
why it looks that way. There's about 4% of the vote in right now in Wisconsin.
See the
Now I wanna check in
CNN
on
version,
Iowa,
too in
another
love with the tech,
unexpected
very
place
cold,
on the map,
inhuman.
But there was an Iowa poll late in the cycle from a very trustworthy
Whoa.
pollster out there that
Grassley's doing
showed
terrible.
Chuck Grassley, the incumbent Republican, in a tight race with Democrat Michael Franken. And some early returns show Franken out ahead 58.3% to Chuck Grassley's
But these are only early.
41.6%. But there is very little vote in Iowa at this hour. We only have 11% in. Let's also dip in on Pennsylvania, where John Fetterman, the Democrats, at 60.5%. These numbers are moving in real time. To Dr. Mehmet Oz's
Whoa, here we go.
37%.
This is something
another situation
more
where they're gonna count
resembling
votes
what
very
reality
slowly. This is
should
one where
maybe
there's
be.
already
Right.
litigation challenges, questions about how these votes are going to be counted, and we expect that's going to go late into
Oh,
the night.
the steal is already
70%
in.
of
They're
the
already
vote in
starting to steal.
Pennsylvania. Now,
Even
Boris,
What do you mean?
has got some governor
See,
races to talk
she
to us
just
about.
mentioned something about, oh, there's going to be some questions about
Oh,
how the votes
yeah.
are being counted. Like,
Right.
like CNN is already starting the narrative before they can even get going.
Texas, there we have an update. Incumbent Republican Greg Abbott building on the earlier lead he had on Beto O'Rourke, the former congressman, 149,000 votes ahead for the two-time governor of Texas. 52% of the vote in there.
He's so
Let's take a look at the
evil,
state of
Abbott.
Georgia.
Yes.
Brian Kemp right now with 111,000 vote advantage over Stacey Abrams, 66% of the vote in. Notably, he is above that 50% threshold, meaning he could potentially avoid a runoff if this holds. And we just got an update there. Now 115,000 vote lead for Kemp. Let's take a look at the state of Michigan. Incumbent Democrat Gretchen Whitmer locked in this tough re-election battle with conservative commentator, former TV host Tudor Dixon. A 42,000 vote advantage for Whitmer, roughly an 8% lead right now. Still very early with only 12% of the vote in. Let's get an update for you from Pennsylvania. There, the Attorney General, Josh Shapiro, he has nearly a 300,000 vote advantage over Doug Mastriano, one of the most extreme candidates you are going to see.
Yeah, Mastriano is another one who
of the
Dems helped.
Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, one that our Jake Tapper knows very well. Jake.
All right, Boris, thanks so much. Let's take a look at this governor's race right now in Pennsylvania. Josh Shapiro, the sitting attorney general, running for governor against a state legislator named Doug Mastriano that Boris just aptly described. What's going on here?
So you're watching, it fills in more votes coming in, as you say. It's a nearly 300,000 vote lead for Josh Shapiro at the moment, who was favored in the late polls in this race. But if you just want to go through, a place. I was just looking at one place.
Should we switch over to Rachel Maddow?
Yeah, Rachel.
Yeah. Long commercial.
And you see
a lot of Morning Joe stuff.
19% to 16%.
No Maddow?
No Maddow.
Morning Joe stuff. What do we got on MSN? Oh, I see Maddow.
Oh, here we go. There we go, Rach.
Once was in 2002, right after 9/11, and one was in 1934. The president's party, whatever party holds the White House, the first midterm after that president.
Now, I do like the MSNBC graphics the most.
The Republicans only
they're clean.
5 seats in order to win the majority in the House of Representatives this year. Historically, just looking at the numbers, they're likely to do that. Now, what looks like a normal midterm pickup number for the party that's out of power? Well, in the last midterm in 2018,
Oh, and look, I like they got proposals up,
40 seats.
you know.
And the Republican before that,
Not just the elections. I like that.
The Democrats were in power in the White House. They lost 13 seats. In 2010, the midterm before that, Democrats lost 63 seats. In 2006, the Republicans had the White House. They lost 30 seats.
Definitely the most aesthetically soothing graphics.
Yes.
Very pleasing laid out.
It is, yeah. Well, I have, not that I don't love watching Rachel Maddow. We're going to go back to her, but we have an even more exciting person to bring on, even more exciting than Rachel Maddow. And that is none other than Marianne Williamson. Hi, Marianne.
Hi, Katie. So more exciting than Rachel Maddow.
I know.
That's
Damning
kind of like damning
praise.
with,
Yeah,
that's damning
exactly.
with faint praise.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you guys?
Good. You've virtually met before, Leslie
Hello.
and Marianne.
Hello
Nice
again.
to see you.
Nice to see you again.
So what are you thinking, Marianne? What are your thoughts on tonight?
I'm feeling heartbroken for some of these candidates who are coming in so close and might not make it. You know, some of these people are, you know, whether it has to do with Stacey, whether it has to do with Beto, people who are working so hard. And, you know, I know when I was down in Texas and I was saying something nice about Beto and all these people were saying, I was saying, what do you need to know? Except that he's not Greg Abbott. I mean, I think that it's so important that we remember that whether we are particularly excited about one candidate or another, what the Republican Party at this point represents is something truly egregious. And we're in a state of cold civil war, I think, here at this point. And somebody, I read somewhere that 43 election deniers have already been elected. So it's not a hyperbole to say that democracy is on the line. But also, as people like you and I see, democracy has not been, in FDR's words, delivering on its promises. And the corporatist elements of the Democratic Party, it's so funny, they act like progressives are trying to hijack the party, but really they're the ones who hijacked the party. And they took it away from the traditional pillars established by FDR, by which the Democratic Party was an unabashed and unequivocal advocate for the working people of the United States. And that trajectory has been a spectacular failure. I mean, the fact that these races are even close, it's just, there's no way these things should be close, given the fact that the modern Republican Party does not want to do anything to help people. So I think that starting tomorrow, starting when all this particular drama is over, whether the Republicans ultimately win the House or Democrats win the House, we have to get started. We have to get started with generating a new chapter in American history, or our democracy will be swollen up by these neo-fascist forces. I honestly believe that.
What do you have any insights as a Texan into what's happening in Texas?
Well, you know, a lot of people in Texas look at people like myself and say, you guys left. And I've thought about that. A lot of people that I know who left Texas have thought about that. We just went, oh, to hell with this. This is ridiculous. You know, the Bush family is down here and it's all going to, you know, going red. And it wasn't just Republican versus Democrat. I mean, we know that. We understand about the corporate duopoly, et cetera. But still, any chance of progressivism versus. And there was just kind of a mass exodus of a lot of people who now feel like, well, I know I feel great admiration for the people who are working so hard, not just on Democratic politics, because we all know that that's problematic in ways, but real progressive politics down in Texas. I met Beto when I was running. in 20. And I think he's a nice man. I don't agree with him about everything. He's got some neoliberal corporate stuff. I mean, he's running on what he's running on. But Greg Abbott represents something so awful, so awful. So, last time I looked, Beto still might pull this out. I mean, some of these are, they still might pull it out. And I hope he does, because I think that Beto represents the heart of Texas as I know it.
Abbott certainly represents the spleen of Texas or something.
He represents the money of billionaires in Texas.
Yeah.
Let's not kid ourselves. That's all he represents. He represents billionaire money. The money in politics is destroying our country. Louis Brandeis said you can have large amounts of money concentrated in the hands of a very few, or you can have democracy. You cannot have both. And this massive transfer of wealth and opportunity into the hands of 1% has just blocked our representative democracy. But I do think that if the Democratic Party hadn't been willing to try to have it both ways over the last 40 years, I mean, it's true that the Republican president started this neoliberal madness, although our friend Harvey Kaye would say it actually started with Carter. But it started this big time with Reagan. But no Democratic president has stopped it. I feel like the Republican Party obviously has just been taken over completely by this corporate-backed mentality. And the Democrats, it's like they say, we really feel bad about the suffering that this has caused, but even they will not challenge the underlying corporate forces that make all that suffering inevitable. So I think that, one side is a big lie, but the other side is some truth, but it's not the whole truth, and it's not nothing but the truth. We need some radical truth-telling now. And if we don't have that radical truth-telling about what really went wrong over the last 40 years and reckoning with what's really gone wrong over the last over 260 years, then I don't see any way out of the path toward the violent revolution. The only way we're not going to have a violent revolution in this country is if we wage a nonviolent revolution. JFK said that those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable. And I think we need a revolution in this country. We need revolution against the neoliberal madness by which so much hope and opportunity and money went into the hands of such a tiny few while so many people suffer. We have a third, if you put together the poor, the near poor, and the afraid of becoming poor, you have a third of America's population. We don't need any more evidence how corrupt this system is. We can see it in the shuttered factories and the broken windows and the hollow eyes of addicted and desperate and hopeless people who are apparently in Washington. I live in Washington, and they say that it's a bubble. It's more than a bubble. It's a walled off city. It's like, what leading politician even says the word poor? They don't even mention poverty. These are people who the money and the power buffers them from any sensitivity, any real, not only the experience of hunger, but even allowing themselves to imagine what it would feel like to be hungry. So we know this. The problems tonight are not how many Republicans are voting. The problem is how many people should stand for what the Democratic Party should stand for, who are staying home. But it's the only way they have to say, fuck you. Because it's the only way they have to resist. And I think the only hope really for this country is for the Democratic Party to reclaim that FDR type New Deal, unequivocal, unabashed stand for the working people of the United States.
I'm curious what you were referring to with Harvey Kaye talking about Carter.
Have Harvey on and talk.
Okay.
But anytime I say, oh, this started with Reagan, he says, no. And but he could explain his position better than I can. But he takes real issue with Jimmy Carter too. He says that Jimmy Carter, he said, started the pathway to the neoliberal. I mean, to me, Jimmy Carter's the one who had, he had solar panels on the roof of the White House, and then the first thing Reagan did was he took them down. So I hadn't thought of but Harvey can explain Harvey better than I can.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. What are your plans?
I don't know. I'm thinking about it all, but I think a lot of it has to do with what happens tonight. I think no matter what happens tonight, we have to begin a new chapter of American history. We must, because right now the Republicans represent a nosedive and the Democrats represent a managed decline. So they're both the corporate-led corporate aspects of the parties are a status quo that will not disrupt itself. And we can't, so let's say the Democrats hold the Senate tonight. So we don't go over the cliff. We're still 6 inches from the cliff. We're still on the Titanic, headed towards the iceberg, just a little more slowly. And we have to generate a field of possibility for actually turning it around. And that's not incremental change. That's not just ticking a little bit, tacking a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right. It's actually turning things around. There's a radicalism to that. But I think, you were talking about Harvey K. Harvey K, and I agree on that there's a radicalism to the very idea of America, which is the repudiation of tyranny. How ironic that these people who are voting for the tyrants talk about doing so as a way of overthrowing tyranny. It's corporate tyranny that is the tyranny that has this country in a chokehold today. It's the tyranny of the corporate aristocracy, of the insurance companies, of the pharmaceutical companies, the big food companies, the big agricultural companies, the fossil fuel companies, the gun manufacturers, and of course the defense contractors. That's the tyranny that we need to be overthrowing. So everything is so backwards. And of course, people who say that are considered too far left by the Democratic elite. The Democratic elite would not let FDR be anywhere in the room today. FDR would be considered a wild-eyed radical. So I want to contribute to the change in the conversation and the change in the direction of the country, just like everybody else I know, just like you. And how best I might do that, I'm figuring out.
What are some of the policies that you think that whether you would be running or someone else would be running need to be put into place?
Well, obviously, it's ridiculous that we are the only advanced democracy that does not have universal health care. Plus China, plus Russia, plus Cuba. It is absolutely absurd that we don't have universal health care, and we don't have it because of short-term profit maximization for insurance companies. And we have people in medical debt that doesn't even exist in these other countries because of short-term profit for pharmaceutical companies. We have people choosing between their rent and their insulin in this country. In other places, it's free or very, very inexpensive. And right now, the Democrats are all excited because they got insulin down to $35 for people who are Medicare recipients. It should be for everyone. We should completely cancel the college loan debt. I'll tell you something, Katie, I don't think there's ever been any generation in America where government proactively thwarts the dreams of our young the way it is happening today. It's unbelievable. It's like our young people, government should be, this is what happens in a system of nature. This is what happens in any advanced mammalian species that survives and thrives. You try to help your young get ahead. You help the cubs, you help the young. There's no protection. There's a fuck you to America's young that comes out of officialdom today. It's not just selfish. It is not just dysfunctional. It is un-American. It is pathological. It's sociopathic, all the words we could come up with. So of course we should cancel that college loan debt. Of course higher education and trade school should be free or extremely affordable. Of course, we should repeal that 2017 tax cut, $2 trillion tax cut, where 83% of every dollar went to the highest earners and corporations. We should put back in the middle class tax cuts, of course. We should stop these corporate subsidies. We should have a wealth tax. We should have right now, with inflation being the way it is, not only the windfall profits tax, we should have some price controls. We should take seriously the idea of a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, rather than a government of the corporations, by the corporations, and for the corporations. So it's not, it's interesting because you ask what policies, we all know what the policies are. And all of the policies that I just mentioned most of them are policies that are majorly, fundamentally supported by the majority of people. But now we have, as we know, our representative government is not working. Washington is a system of legalized bribery, and our representatives do more to represent the will of their donors than the will of their constituents. And then in the absence of, with the gerrymandering being the way it is, how do we break that? The only way we can break that is with a massive movement. That's what we need, a massive movement. And Democrats have to stop their codependent relationship with the DNC. It's unbelievable. The Republicans don't have that codependent relationship with the RNC. The RNC said, well, you can have Jeb Bush, or you can have Marco Rubio, you could have John Kasich. And they went, fuck you. You're just our administrative office, and we want Donald Trump. But the Democrats, whatever the DNC says. We know what the DNC did to Bernie in 2016. And in 2016, the rage of people at this massive transfer of power, at the fact that their communities had been ravaged, at the fact that their opportunities in life were just shrinking and shrinking and shrinking in the workplace and everywhere else. And Bernie, all the polls showed, if the DNC had just left their fingers off the scale, I don't know if Hillary would have won or Bernie would have won in the primaries, but I'll tell you, Donald Trump would never have been president. And then the DNC did it again in 20. And that's what I would like to see more than anything else at the end of this. The DNC, the establishment Democratic leadership, even if we pull out a win in the Senate tonight, even if miraculously we pull out a win in both houses, it's still a spectacular failure, the very fact it was even this close. And that's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see a change in the consciousness of enough is enough. With these people, we keep giving another chance. So, Nancy Pelosi has been through a terrible tragedy, and I respect that. If she had not, of course, we're all very sorry about that. If it were not for that, I'd be saying tonight the best thing that could happen is for her to resign tomorrow. If the Democratic, we just need, there is a whole level of leadership that just needs out. And if it were the Republican Party, they would be, interestingly enough. So I want to be a voice in whatever way would be helpful to making that change happen, so we can begin a real season of repair and a real season of renewal in this country. So however I can be helpful is what I'm going to do.
And why do you say that about Pelosi? I think you can say that you're sorry for what happened, but policy-wise, why do you think she should?
Why don't we have, everything that the establishment Democratic leadership stands for. I understand what happened with the Build Back Better bill, but Nancy actually led the promising, we can make it into 2 bills and it'll be fine. She actually was the leading of that call. You could almost see what happened when AOC first went and Ilhan Omar and the squad and all those people first got there. Katie, I wasn't there, but you could almost feel it in the air. Couldn't you just feel it, how Nancy just probably gave them her cell phone number and said, honey, look, I'm just like you. We want the same thing. Here's my number. Call me anytime. You just stay with me, and we're going to get this done. Couldn't you just feel it? That's why the whole force the vote thing was happening. It was like, no, don't. These people walked in. They just got under her spell, under her sway.
Mama Bear.
Yeah, and but it wasn't Mama Bear, really. It was more like the lover who has been disloyal so many times and still comes back. Come on, baby, give me another chance. These people should not be given another chance.
Yeah, I agree. I think Nancy needs to go home. Yeah.
And right now, this is such a terrible thing that's happened.
Right. Yeah. We'll give her a couple days, then we'll renew this call. Yeah. Mama Bear, who ends up eating most of her cubs.
No, Mama Bear we like. Mama Bear. In every advanced mammalian species that survives and thrives, a common characteristic is the fierce behavior of the adult female of the species when she senses a threat to her cubs. And that's true of tigers, it's true of lions, it's true of bears. So you really have to ask yourself about the human species. The 12,000 children starving on this planet every day, the level we have millions of hungry children. We don't have starvation, thank God, in the United States, but we have serious hunger. We have millions of American children who go to school hungry every day. We have states like North Carolina who are now saying that if the parents don't pay the bill, they're just not going to feed the kids. They won't feed the kids. And if we don't stand up for that, what is wrong with us that there's not this overwhelming vote tonight in favor of doing whatever it would take to feed our children, to protect our children? That theoretically is the sign of a species that has no intent to survive. Do you know, among the hyenas, adult female hyenas encircle their babies while they're feeding and will not let the adult males get anywhere near the food until the babies have been fed. Now, surely the women of America could do better than the hyenas.
Yeah. Life hacks from hyenas. Hyena life hacks, yeah. And Marianne, two more things I want to ask you about. One is, have you been able to reach people on Julian Assange at all? Have you been able to, because he's such a, I know he's someone who, his case is very important to yours, and to you, excuse me. And he's seen as such a pariah. And I was just wondering if you had any luck talking to people, reaching people on that. And then I have another question after, but yeah.
Yeah, it's very sad. Andrew Coburn's been talking about this. He's going to be writing an article. I saw Stella when I was in London last.
Stella Morris is
Stella
don't know,
Morris,
that's
who's a wonderful
Assange's
woman.
Wife and the mother of his 2 kids and a lawyer.
Yeah, she's a wonderful woman. And their work at the moment, their focus is on the British courts and hoping that they will not expedite. But you're right, here it's just absurd, the lack of support he gets among people who should be afraid. They should be very, very afraid. His case is such an attack on the free press. We already have a situation where they have at the Defense Department and at the State Department these press briefings, right? So our ideas, the current state of the media in the United States today is that journalists who should be covering the Defense Department and should be covering the State Department take notes, and they just regurgitate what they were told by the spokesman at the State Department or the spokesman at the Defense Department. So that's how afraid they already are. And they're not just afraid of being thrown in jail. They're afraid of losing their job with that corporate-owned media conglomerate, right? But once they, God forbid, they bring Julian Assange over here and put Assange in jail, it will have such a chilling effect. It will have such a chilling effect on press in this country, which is already in such a terrible state, which is why you guys and all other independent media are so important. Somebody's got to tell it like it is.
And
even when you and I disagree.
Yeah, right, which we do, yeah. What about what was it like meeting Stella?
Oh, I love her. She's wonderful. She's wonderful. But of course she's, I have tremendous admiration for her. And I have such admiration for her because on one hand, she's in love with this man. She's mother of his 2 children. And she feels the injustice of it. She met him because she was a lawyer on his team, right? So she has this deep sense of the injustice added to the fact that she loves him and she's watching what's happening to him. And yet, when you see her in interview after interview, she's so sophisticated and so calm and so elegant. I watched her on Piers Morgan on an interview where John Bolton was on, and John Bolton was so snarky and condescending and rude to her, and she was just so. She's not just a class act; she's a brilliant class act. I learned a lot from watching her. So on one hand, I just love her as a friend, as a woman. But in addition to that, I have great admiration for her. And when I saw her in London, I told her that, in my opinion, she's just pitch perfect. But she's, they consider the United, for whatever reason, we can't get through the wall of resistance on this here. But it doesn't matter right now here so much. What matters is Britain.
Yeah. And can you tell people about how and why you went to Vietnam?
My father was like a cross between William Kunstler and Zorba the Greek. So I feel like I've told this story so many times, but I was in the 7th grade and I came home and I was at dinner and I was explaining to my parents what I learned in school that day. My father used to say, we used to come home and at dinner, my father would say, did they try to teach you any facts today, kids? Well, he said, remember the Byzantine rule, it's never what you think it is. So that night I was explaining to my parents about the domino theory. And I was explaining to my parents that according to my teacher, if we didn't fight the communists in Vietnam, we would be fighting them on the shores of Hawaii. And the whole time I'm talking, I'm watching my mother is going like, I could just see her hand like, this is not going to go well. And I didn't understand what I was saying. That was like, I thought, this is what I learned in school today. And my mother's like this, and my father's just turning white, you know? And then at a certain point, he said, that's enough. And he stood up and he said, sweetheart, that's what he called my mother, get the visas, we're going to Vietnam. And my mother says, oh, Sam. And my father started talking about how the military industrial complex was trying to eat his children's brain, and he would not allow it to happen. And if you knew my father, if my father said to my mother, get the visas, we're going to Vietnam, we go to Vietnam.
So how long were you there?
Oh, I'm sure a few days in Saigon. At that point, you could be in Saigon still, but the fighting was raging about 5 miles out. I remember how the plane landed, you know, so steeply. But it was enough that my father, you know, I remember his saying, what is this, kids? Bullet holes, Daddy? Who put them there? U.S. government? Goddamn U.S. government. But don't get me wrong, my father was, it was so different then. We had an American flag waving on the front,
oh, really? That's
you
funny.
know, on the front yard. He was, you know, I've said to many people, and I've heard people say that that's true for them as well. I've said in the last few years that I'm really glad that my parents did not live to see what's happening now. It would have broken his heart. It would have broken his heart. But my brother and I like to think we're doing what we can to, you know, my father was an immigration lawyer and my brother is an immigration lawyer. That Texas, that's the Texas I grew up in. And that Texas is there. You know, Jim Hightower, Ramsey Clark, Barbara Jordan. You know, that's the Democratic, that's the Texas that I grew up in. But we went a lot of places. We were behind the Iron Curtain. I was in Russia when I was a child. I was in Finland. I was in Hungary. And it affected me tremendously. You know, people would say to my father, why are you taking your kids to travel all these places? They're so young, they won't even remember it. And he would always say, it will get under their skin. And it did. I mean, there's a certain level of propaganda that I don't think my brother, my sister, and I were ever vulnerable to. And this is true of anybody who travels the world as a child. This idea of American exceptionalism and that America's better, and you just can't buy it if you've traveled all over the world and seen not only that people are the same everywhere, but how in some places they were actually nicer to you than they were here. You know, like the Russian people love children. I don't know if this is still the way it is, but when I was a child, the Russians would just make such a big deal over a child. So that was my experience.
Right. Interesting. I didn't realize you traveled to so many different countries.
Oh, all over the world. My parents were literally all over the world. And one of the things, I'm sorry, go on.
Oh yeah, Mary, I was just wondering, you're telling so many interesting stories. I'm wondering what's the next book you're working on?
Well, I just finished the book about Jesus, actually. It's called The Mystic Jesus, The Psychology of Faith. So I went back to my, I go back and forth between my spiritual writing and my political. Before I ran for president, I was supposed to be writing this book about Jesus because I had gotten a call from a publisher who is my publisher, but also is the biggest Bible publisher in the world. And they said the biggest religious denomination, well, first of all, the biggest religious group in the world, in America, I don't know about the world, but in the United States right now, is called None. people who, it's kind of like in politics, the biggest growing group is independent.
Right.
The biggest growing group of people in religious circles is people who want to know about Jesus, but don't want to have to necessarily be Christian. They want to know about Jesus, but they don't want the dogma or the doctrine of the Christian religion. And they said, could you write a book about that? I said, yeah, actually, because I'm a student of the Course in Miracles, which is a Christ-centered teaching, but those traditional Christian terms are used in very non-traditional, non-religious psychotherapeutic ways. I'm Jewish, and being a student of the Course in Miracles never in any way made me feel I shouldn't be Jewish or that I should be another religion. At the peak, religion and psychotherapy are the same thing. They're the healing of the mind. So I was supposed to write that book when I decided to run for president, and I said to the publisher, I'm going to run for president, so maybe not that book right now. They said, okay, what would you like to write? I said, well, if I run for president, I want to write a book about what I'm standing for, which is what every candidate does. You know, every candidate does, and they should do that. You write a book explaining the issues that you care about, what your agenda would be, and that's what that book was, A Politics of Love. But then I came back to writing the book that I was already planning to write, so that will be coming out next year.
Wow.
You're going to have me on to talk about that book?
I really like Jesus. Yeah. Yeah. I'm a Jew. I sometimes say I'm a Jew for Jesus. Not like.
Well, no, don't say that. But that's a born again Christian.
Yeah, no,
group.
not that, yeah.
But it is true. You know, I say to people all the time, Jews have a problem with Christianity. They don't have a problem with Jesus. I mean, can you blame them? It's a very different thing.
Yeah.
Jesus was a Jew. He was one of us. He was.
Yeah, you're welcome, Christians. Yeah. Well, that sounds good. I'll totally have you on to talk about that. And I will read it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
September 23, 2023.
Okay. Great. Anything else you want to let people know about, or any final words from you or from Leslie?
I just want to say thank you so much for having me on, Kate, and so nice to talk to you again, Marianne.
Oh, it's really nice to see you, Leslie. Thank you. I think we're all going to need a lot of courage in the days ahead. That's what I think. I think that what's going to be happening for all of us politically in this country, I think that it's qualities of personhood that are going to determine where we go now. And I think we're all going to have to be willing to go through some changes within ourselves in order to create the kinds of changes we need to create on the outside.
Okay. Great. Exciting.
You think so?
Daunting and exciting. Yeah.
For this we were born.
Yeah. All right. Well, I will talk to you guys again soon.
Thank you. Nice seeing you, Leslie. Bye.
Bye. All right, guys. That was great. We have more guests coming up. Very excited. And again, thank you so much for watching, for tuning in. We're going to be joined shortly by some more guests. Just want to encourage people to like the stream if they haven't already. Also, they can become Patreon supporters at patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. They can support Useful Idiots and get access to more content at usefulidiots.substack.com. And let's see, we're going to play the, you know what? Let's take a minute. We're going to play the intro that Brad made to this episode, and then we're going to bring in our next guest. And I know you guys are very excited to hear from him. Also, everyone like the chat. Everyone like the chat. Okay. Okay. That was the very scary clip intro that I missed the first time, and some people also missed it. So we just played it for you again. Now we're going to bring in our next guest. This guy you guys are very excited about. It was kind of annoying, honestly, if I'm being honest, how excited you were about it while other guests were on. but I understand because he's an exciting guest, and he is none other than Matthew Taibbi. Hi, Matt. Hey, Katie, what's going on? How's it going? All right. Although I'm more inebriated than I am informed. Oh, really? Okay, good. Well, you know what? What have you been drinking at? Was there a lot of democracies on the line? Should we review your drinking game again? Yeah, there was a lot of democracy itself. There was a lot of election deniers. There was a lot of So the rules were. Let me open this back up for people. Yeah. Yeah. So rule number one was any mention of like democracy being on the ballot. Most important election of our lifetime. That actually didn't come up at all. Wow. Steve Kornacki drawing frenzied shapes around Pennsylvania. That came up once. I haven't seen John Fetterman's shorts on video all night. That was another one of the rules. Let's see. Lots of election deniers stuff. That was one of the rules. Conditions ripe for violence. That came up a couple of times. And let's see. We haven't gotten to Nazis, fascists, or white supremacy yet because nobody has. Because we haven't reached the point of it being fully clear who's actually going to take control of whatever. Got it. All right. And what about the MSNBC rules? Have you played those? Yeah. So I can just review who I guessed for
Okay,
each one of
yeah.
these.
All
So I guess that it would be Alex Wagner or I'm sorry, I guess that it would be O'Donnell who would blame the disobedient Democrats for the loss, but that's going to be later in the evening, obviously.
Okay.
I think it's going to be Joy Reid who's going to make the bad sports joke about Herschel Walker. She did use the term sui generis earlier this evening, which I thought was bold by her.
Yeah.
Let's see. Nobody has conveyed actually Rachel did go for the whole misinformation, disinformation, malinformation thing.
Okay.
But she didn't directly reference the FBI or the National Counterterrorism Center. I called that a drink anyway.
Okay.
I guess that was going to be her. I guess that was going to be Nicole Wallace who was going to do that. I figured it would be Hayes who would be the first to invoke Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
That hasn't come up yet.
It hasn't happened yet. Okay.
Yeah, and then for the number 15 was, it's basically like you know how you count cards in blackjack.
No, remind me.
So basically, whenever you see a face card, you add, and whenever you see a low card, you subtract. And the whole idea is the deck is hot if you're in the plus category,
Okay.
and the deck is cold if it's in the minus category. So the idea was to keep a running count of whether they mentioned Trump more than all other issues combined.
Right.
On MSNBC, and the deck was so hot that that basically you could drink an unlimited amount just on this question.
Right.
Because all they did was talk about Trump.
Trump, yeah.
But that's in the context of being excited that Trump is it's not a good night for Trump. It's a good night for DeSantis. So.
Right. Or as Trump likes to call him, Ron DeSanctimonious.
Does he really call him?
Oh yeah, you didn't hear? Yeah, he was reading a poll. We covered this on Monday morning. Yeah, he's like, oh, look at that, look at me, 70%, and there I am, and then Cheney, no, and Ron DeSanctimonious. Yeah.
Wow, he can pronounce.
Yeah, as Brad was saying, it must be from from Roger Stone.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I know. Keep going. Sorry.
No. So what are your early impressions? Because it's impossible to tell anything at this stage already.
Yeah, I know. I thought it looked like Herschel Walker was going to win, which would have been funny, but I guess he's not going to win.
Well,
or is it too close to call?
It's too close to call, and either way, they're probably not going to get to 50.
Okay. Wow.
So it's going to be a runoff, and everybody's going to be stoked about that. And we're going
Right.
to be waiting for another month to figure out. But that depends on. There's a whole slew of other races that.
Yeah. What are you excited about or not excited about?
Well, I'm a little surprised at Fetterman doing as well as he has, but then my guess is Nevada, Ohio, Nevada and Ohio are going to cancel out Pennsylvania, and that would give it to the Republicans, irrespective of Georgia. That's sort of where I'm guessing at this point. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know, honestly. I'd be lying if I said I had any special insight into it.
Well, this is a new problem of like modern age election coverage, is that the states all have different reporting methods. They're all clearly telling you well, some of the states anyway are clearly dumping huge masses of mail-in votes at the early stages of the reporting process. So you tune in and you see like results like Fetterman up 90 to 8 or whatever it is. And then you look up 2 hours later and it's 53 to 43. Same thing happened in Ohio. So I don't know. Who the hell knows? Right now it looks like Walker's up in Ohio. But what does that mean?
Yeah.
Who the hell knows?
It's so depressing. All of Monday morning was, Sunday morning news shows. It was just all horse race. Like no other news mattered at all. Oh, are you frozen? Wilson, are you here, by the way?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I wanted to make sure you and Taibbi saw each other. But Taibbi seems to be frozen. I was going to say, Wilson, you should play some clips for us. Let's see. Is Taibbi still frozen?
Well, I believe he is, but let's bring in
when God freezes one useful idiot's host, he melts another. So we're going to bring in another guest, and then Taibbi, if you're there, maybe reconnect. But we got Aaron Maté here. Hello, Aaron.
Aaron.
Hey.
How's it going?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay.
How are you doing?
All I care about is I really don't want to hear Georgia on my mind.
Yeah.
For the next month on loop. That's all I care about.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear that song. Because remember last time in the 2020 race, there also was a runoff. So we heard for
like
nonstop every single day, Georgia on my mind.
Yeah, a lot of Georgia. So you're saying Georgia on my mind is on your mind?
Yes, Georgia on my mind is on my mind.
Terrible. Well, we got Taibbi back.
Hey, what's up, Aaron?
Hey, what's up, Matt?
How you doing, man?
How's your night going?
I'm a little tipsy.
Yeah,
honestly.
I should have played this.
I don't know anything.
Yeah, that's a great combo. You see, most people don't admit that combination.
Yeah, well,
being tipsy and not knowing anything. Most people pretend they're not drunk and pretend that they do know everything.
But look, I'm not gonna mention names, but I was watching a lot of cable tonight, and I look as a career drug user, I identified, I would say, a half dozen people who are clearly cranked on something tonight.
Really?
And a lot of sniffling going on those sets.
We should do a game where you have to match the person to the substance.
At like 70 RPM. it's pretty obvious. But you know, I can't make sense of it. Look, the obvious early conclusion is that, you know, Republicans are going to win the House, but, you know, maybe it's not going to be a blowout. And then on the Senate side, you know, it's kind of a toss-up, but they're probably going to win. But I don't know. Do you know?
We don't know. We don't know. I mean, I was just saying that I don't want to hear the song "Georgia on My Mind" again on loop for the next month. You know, that's where we're headed. That's where we're headed.
I mean, there were probably people who will commit suicide if we end up in that place. Don't you think?
Don't do it, guys. Don't let them win.
Yeah. Don't let the terrorists win.
Yeah. Don't let whoever gets who wrote that song? I wonder who gets the royalties from that.
I'm pretty sure it's Ray Charles.
Yeah, it is Ray Charles. I knew he performed it, but I didn't know if he wrote it.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's, you know, and then of course, you know, there's also Pennsylvania. It looks like JD Vance is pulling ahead in Ohio. Has that been called?
All right, guys, this was great. Thank you all so much for coming. And you know what to do. Like the stream, subscribe to usefulidiots.substack.com, subscribe to patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. See me live in New York City next Tuesday at the People's Forum. At 7 p.m. the show starts. Doors open at 6:30 with Miko Peled, the great Israeli American activist, one state solution advocate. Okay, that's all I have to say. Anything else? Thank you so much, Brad. Thank you so much, Tyler. Thank you so much, Matt Wilson. Thanks, Aaron. Thanks all the people who are super chatters. Thanks for liking both streams, and also thanks Phantomus Phantas for the clips. All right, bye everyone.
Okay, I'm down.